If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
Hello, kitties. This is yours Julie, the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Slasher Radio.
Welcome to Slasher Radio. Your host Bones, Rob, and Kat. We are back. We have a kind of a big episode this week, and we got a lot of shit to get to, though, so we got to get rolling. Guys, what's going on?
I can't unmute my computer. Just hanging out, you know.
Hanging out, doing your thing. Hanging, slanging, and banging, as Let It Hang would say.
Marcus.
All right.
One of my favorite sayings. We got a lot of stuff to get to this week. We have no more Patreon picks for a little while, which is really good. That's very nice to know.
Yeah, that's a relief.
Yeah, we're just off to questionable movie decisions. But we are back with a very special guest who is going to be joining the show shortly. This is something that we've been asked to do for a while, and it's Vincente DiSanti. He's the director, he's the writer, he played Jason throughout most of the Never Hike Alone series of Friday the 13th fan film. I think there's 3 of them in total now. It was a very, very interesting conversation. And we can't wait for the passion that this dude has for that franchise, man. Good Lord.
Yeah, it's a lot. He really does love it.
He does. And we talked about it. I mean, we have that to get to, first of all. We'll get to that. We have Drink Roll Call that we'll get to as usual. We do have a text message that Ghostface will be hopping on to read to us. And Vince joined in the show to speak about Never Hike Alone or Friday the 13th in general. And then we're going to throw down our Jason Voorhees rankings on the back end of the episode, which we've also been asked to do before.
Look at that. Look at us. We're making dreams come true tonight.
We are really catering to the Friday fans, so which is good because I feel like sometimes we're mean to the Friday fans.
This is all for you, Chris.
You're welcome.
yeah, that is true.
Hell of a deal.
I don't feel like I feel like the wheel is mean to Jason and Friday fans sometimes more than we are.
I think one of us is mean to Jason Cat.
Huh? Listen.
I didn't get anything thrown at me there. That's nice.
I was going to say, you can say that, but I mean, when he gets passed through, it's 2-1.
Yeah, but I don't like doing it, though. Like, it's a real struggle
doing
for me.
It.
You relish it a little too much, Miss Valor.
Yeah, don't bother you. You don't lose no sleep over it, man. I still think about that damn Pinhead Jason matchup. Like, it was hard that took a little bit of time off my life, I think.
All right.
Well, I was just going to ask Kat. I don't know. Do we have more production notes from Mr. Cat's boyfriend guy?
We do, actually.
Okay, good.
Right before the show, I made sure to get them.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, that's what you were looking for?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Oh, so it was important. You weren't lying.
Yeah, it really was kind of important. I remembered that I had them, but I couldn't remember what all of them were, so I kind of had to go digging. But they've been retrieved.
Okay. Do we drink roll call real quick? We might as well get that shit out of the way, and then we can get to the meat and the potatoes, including Mr. Cat's boyfriend guy.
Yeah.
What do you guys drink? I'll get it out of the way. I am drinking my final turned up tea.
Nice.
Oh no.
Finally. I kept one in the drawer that is the drink roll call graveyard in my refrigerator. So I do have one preserved, but this is the last one. Other than that,
All right. So are you just saving that one for like posterity for like the museum later or what?
it seems to be at this point. Yeah.
All right.
And I've also dug in there, like if I need something at a whim, like it wouldn't hurt to not have any more of these. So it could come out of there one day. We'll see.
All right. Fair enough. I am once again drinking the Holy City Brewing Bluff Mud Porter.
I am back to Zombie Dust.
Oh, okay.
I was out for a long time, but I ended up getting a chance to do to watch along with Joe Bob the other week, and it just it's a beer that I know I like. It's always around. It was easy to pick up. So, and my sketchy gas station is no longer selling Alamo. So.
Oh, really? All right.
No more Texan beers for me in Ohio, I guess. So Zombie Dust, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we have to get to? Should we get Mr. Cat's boyfriend notes out of the way? We got to come up with a thing for this segment if it's going to continue much longer, too. We got to get.
Yeah, is he getting close to being caught up, or where are we at?
No, he's still got a lot of catching up to do, but I don't know how many new bits we introduce. It's mostly like a bit rating system, so
All right.
We'll see. And we're also we got a lot of notes this week because I did. I was trying to sleuth around a little bit and see like which ones he liked and didn't like, and he's like, what is happening right now? Because we usually don't talk that much about the show, and so I did confess that I was bringing his notes back. So
how do you feel about the cattle prod bit?
Actually, that was one that came up this week.
Wow.
So we'll start with his note about the Gabagool Mystery Corner. He likes it. He likes it more when there are no Tony Danza fun facts.
Okay.
Because he thinks
he's
it's
clearly a Tony Danza hater. And Kat, I got to be honest with you, I don't know if this is the right guy for you.
The Tony Danza thing is becoming a problem.
Yeah.
He's on the fence currently about the huge clown penis bit, and I might have spoiled it for him a little bit because I asked how many huge clown penis buttons there are, and he was like, "How many are there going to be?"
Yeah, that's a very specific question.
By the way, he knows that Allie has one and Greg has one.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Huge clown penis.
Huge clown penis.
Yeah, he was Cat's boyfriend guy. Ask him to leave another voicemail and just have huge clown and penis somewhere scattered throughout. No specific reason.
He has decided, he has listed his like 2 favorite bits from ever in the show for me in commemoration of, this ranking system. One of his 2 favorites ever is the cattle prod. And I asked him if he was being serious, and he said yes. And he said that he is willing to be at risk of being cattle prodded if we all come together to really hate one of his takes. Which,
all right. That's all right. He's a gamer, at least.
Yeah.
I respect, man. That's a grown ass man stance, man. I respect the shit out of that. Hell yeah, good for you. It might hurt like hell, sure, but you just stand on your beliefs. God damn it, hell yeah.
He likes when we're all on the same page as one another. So
he's listening to the wrong show for that.
I do have bad news, and I debated whether or not I was going to share this because I really don't want to encourage this bit, but he has said that his favorite bit, maybe of all time in slasher radio history, is Rob trying to egg him on into growing a mustache so he can be more like Dan Chalice.
Well, I mean, look, when you see a look that clearly works, you got to go with it.
He really liked the episodes leading up to him watching Season of the Witch. He has now, I believe at this point, also heard, I made him skip Season of the Witch for a while so he wouldn't get spoilers. But he's listened to that one now, and he can confirm that he does think Dan Chalice is awesome, and Season of the Witch is his favorite Halloween movie.
Yes.
So
I mean, let's not get carried away with that, but Dan Chalice is the greatest character in the history of all cinema. Yeah.
I was going to tell you that he hasn't seen all of the Halloween movies, but he has seen 1 and 2. Okay. So I don't know that it's going to help things, but
God damn it.
But yeah, grow that mustache out, man. It'll
Nope.
work. Crocs too. Get you some Crocs. Cat loves Crocs.
nope, he already has Crocs that I keep hiding while I'm over there.
Let me ask you this though: what color are his Crocs? Does he have brightly tie-dyed colored Crocs?
He does not, and he doesn't need those.
I'm just saying, I get a lot of looks when I wear them,
I bet you do.
Yeah, you do.
and they're nice. I wore them to the beach. Very nice on the beach.
Imagine the sun and hitting those things and like water reflecting off of them and oh my God, man. You got nerve wearing those things.
We're at the beach. We're at the hotel. You know, Mikey.
Yeah. Yeah. You lived there as long as you were paying the room.
I paid for that room. That was my house for the week. Well, not the week. I was there a whole week. But, you know.
And I also, just because do we have a new segment? I feel like we don't have a new segment
No.
today.
Mm-mm.
So I'm just going to drop this in here real quick.
God damn it. Is it button time?
It's button time.
Crazy Canadian, get the fuck out of here! You! Go ahead, go back to turning tricks and old folk and you pain in the ass!
A segment called the Gabagoli Mystery Corner that Mr. Cat's boyfriend likes. You like this, man. I'm being harassed right now for my nationality and just assaulted on a weekly basis, and you enjoy this, man. That's craziness. Where our listeners anonymously send in Italian memes, make fun of me for being Italian. The thought did cross my mind, though.
Yeah.
And I'm now aware of at least 4 patrons, minimum of 4, that have submitted Gabagoli Mystery Corner memes. I feel like maybe this should be a Patreon thing. Like we should consider that going forward because we don't fucking need anymore. We're at least a year and change deep, so it wouldn't really hurt the surface of the earth on this bit. And secondly, these motherfuckers, man, like how dare they take advantage of mocking my nationality and not at least, contribute for it.
Celebrating your culture.
We'll pitch it over to the secret panel and see what they say.
It's just a thought. Just thought I've been thinking about. Just saying, might be a little encouragement to join the goddamn Patreon support. It's a shame that making fun of someone for being a nationality is encouragement to supporting something. But hey, man, it's unfortunately the most interaction we get on anything we fucking do, including award shows and everything else. So.
Did I tell you, I joined a secret project. I'm not allowed to talk about it quite yet, but I joined the team for something and they were like, all right, introducing me to people that were also working on the project. And then they were like, here's this person. Please feel free to make fun of him for being Italian.
Get
and I did
I
kind of did a double take because it was like, is that how they introduce him always, or do they listen to Slasher Radio? Like, is this a reputation that now follows me?
Am I the head of HR for this corporation?
The fuck? Whenever it is you can talk about it, can you at least please remember to let me know that it was the one
that I'm allowed to talk about it. We'll be discussing it on this show.
Son of a bitch.
Because it's actually someone that we've talked about on the show before, who I didn't even know was Italian until I was invited to make fun of him.
Son of a bitch. All right, well, Kat, I regret to inform you before I even know what the fuck it is, I'm boycotting whatever this future project of yours is already.
I understand.
Right now,
I have a feeling it might have ended up that way anyway, but we'll talk about it here in a couple weeks.
But they have a new supporter.
You blindly.
It evens out.
I'll have you know too, Kat. I forget what we were about to do, but the guy didn't look at the meme yet. Memes go up on Patreon, patreon.com/Slasher Radio. We describe them on the show. Real quick, I was watching a friend of me and Rob's and Allie's Huff and Puff, the one with that Slut Me Out song.
Like that? Yeah, I remember.
It's hard to forget. So we were watching the stream, a bunch of us, and someone in his chat, a friend of mine, they said something like they let me have it pretty good. And Rob, who didn't say anything for a good amount of time, just jumps in and goes, "Hey, Aggie, you want to be a guest on a podcast?" And then, I don't know. And then later on, for whatever ungodly reason, Huff is very well aware that this segment exists. He's seen some of the memes. He is very Italian, fluent in Italian, all that shit. Said gabagool repeatedly on his stream today.
It's amazing.
He said it like 10 times. And I was in a call with Allie and I said, God damn it, man. Please don't let Rob still fucking be in here. Not even as soon as I'm done saying it. Radio Rob 123. Ha 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 ha. You son of a bitch, Rob.
I didn't say it.
Does he want to come on the podcast?
No, Huff's not allowed.
No, but Aggie's going to be on.
Aggie is banned from the show. So that's unfortunate.
Speaking of bands, Kat, did you see who got themselves banned from the Nick fucking Woo Cage cast this week?
People just can't help but get banned from the Nick fucking Woo Cage cast.
I know. Will the Thrill, add him to the list. Can't be on the show.
I was in shock.
Unbelievable, Will.
Mm-hmm.
Thrill me.
You know, I consider Will an asset to Slasher Radio, but I don't know what it is about the Nick and Woo Cage cast that they just
I got my eye on that boy.
People can't behave.
I'll ban him from this one too.
My God. We were in Discord and Rob was in there and then Will joins. We didn't even know Will was in there. He snuck right in and someone was like, oh, Will's here. And Rob right away, oh, Will, guess who got banned from the Nick F. Woo Cage cast? Right out of the rip. Oh, man. Yeah, our Discord has a lot of memes, including puppet fuckery. So the evidence is what I'm going to go ahead and call it. Anyway, we gotten a little far away from the Gobble Mystery Corner. All right, we describe them on the show. They go up on Patreon. Oh, man, no, come on. On May the 4th be with you. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's the only day I could share this one.
Yeah. It's timely. It works.
And I will say, again, these are anonymous. They're submitted anonymously, but this was from someone that has helped, but not submitted before.
What?
So,
Helped?
That's as much as I can say.
What the fuck does it even mean?
Well, listen, I don't know if it breaks the rules or not, but I sent this to Kat.
You son of a bitch.
I almost, look, I
Rob
saw
has played intermediary a few times. Like he's passed.
I should have, yeah.
You know, things along to me from other listeners, but this I think was the first one you've submitted.
Yeah, because normally I just send them right to Mikey, and I almost sent this one to Mikey, but then I was like, I don't know if Kat's got this one loaded up and ready to go. I don't want to ruin the thing tonight. I'll send it to her, and then she got it. But yeah, so this one's that you know what? That's my gift to you on May the 4th. Be with you, Mikey.
You submitted it. You're not getting any credit for this. I had to see it anyway, and now it's on the show for everybody to hear.
It's a big deal though. It's our first confirmation for a Mystery Corner. Well, kind of.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I knew the one Allie did. I knew the one Will did. I know Chris is sending them by the fucking dumpster load. I know that.
You have no evidence of that.
Greg has come right out.
I don't get any credit for not just sending it directly to you.
No.
Because you get mad when I send them directly to you.
Yeah, but it's not like you were saying, oh, you know, I don't want to fuck with Mikey. Let me not do it. It was let me do it publicly instead. No, you don't get credit for that. What the hell?
I'm proud of you, Rob. That showed a lot of restraint and maturity.
Because I did send one. What was it? 2-3 weeks ago, I sent one directly to Mikey, and Kat was like, "Oh, great, you ruined the thing for this week or whatever." So I was like, "All right, I gotta be a little careful here. I don't want to step on Kat's bit, you know."
Walk and dance on the motherfucker. Stomp. God damn it.
No, look, this is Mr. Cat's boyfriend guy loves this thing. We don't want to lose him. I'm basically making this show for that guy now.
Before we started recording, I was talking about how quickly you can get things from Amazon. I'm going to look up cattle prods, Mr. Cat's boyfriend guy. All right. This is it's a cannoli. It's a cannoli with Obi-Wan cannoli above it. And it's got fucking, I guess, Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars head. I'd never seen Star Wars. I don't know. But that's annoying and terrible and all those things. But my biggest issue with this isn't even that. Growing Italian is in the bottom right corner of this meme. Wonderful
account you can follow on Instagram. I know that's
son of a bitch. Him, yeah. God damn it! I gotta report him. This is it. This is one of Rob's outlets. Now it's like I found the drug dealer's plug. You know, like I feel like I'm getting somewhere.
Yeah, they might be in other places. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Instagram is where I follow them. Yeah, that's a great account. Yeah.
I feel like we're going to have a new bit where Mr. Cat's boyfriend sends Obi-Wan cannoli to Mikey every day until he watches Star Wars. That's this is revolutionary. That
he doesn't know any music. He hasn't seen any movies. I don't know.
Any movies, Star Wars. This is not my kind of thing, man. I don't like Star Wars.
It's not my kind of thing either. I think I own them on Blu-ray though.
I was gonna say, you don't really know that you don't like Star Wars.
Yes, I do.
Because you haven't seen it.
I've seen trailers. It's not for me. That's it. But yeah, this meme is stupid. I don't like it. It's disrespectful. And
I think it's disrespectful to talk about my gift to you on May the 4th that way, to be honest with you.
I think for May the 4th, maybe you should say Obi-Wan Kenobi in an Italian accent.
Absolutely not. My grandfather would roll over in his grave and strike me down. What do you mean? No,
it's
fucking
a Obi-Wan Kenobi.
You son of a...
That should be a button.
No, it should. No, I don't want to hear that again. Absolutely not. All right. This is the end of that shit. We got a text message. Son of a bitch. 917-397-KILL. It's harder to go through the show. Like, it's better when it's like in the middle and I get a break. Like, Jesus Christ.
Trace the call. It's coming from inside the house.
917-397-5455. You can send in a text message or voicemail. Ghostface is handling the phones. So let's see what Ghostface has for us. We got to be careful, though, letting him out to do these things, man. He's getting a little fired up last
He's getting a little violent, yeah.
He is.
Hello, Slasher Radio. This is Monotone Ghostface speaking on behalf of this dipshit you fuckers call Will the Thrill. Apparently, he makes games for you to play on the show, and he's come up with a new one. It's called Slasher Roulette, and I give you 3 doors to choose from, and 2 of those doors will have a notable slasher villains, and the 3rd will have nothing, and you survive. Please choose between door number 1, 2, and 3 now.
Huh.
Is it paused?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
Do we all have to come to a consensus on a door, or do we each pick a door? How the fuck?
We each pick a door.
Oh, shit.
I'll go through one. It's chaos one day for me.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to go number 2, though. I don't like odd numbers. Going even.
All right, I'll go with number 3, I guess. It's the only one fucking left.
All right. Let's see the results.
If you chose door number 1, I'm sorry, but you chose Victor Crawley.
Yikes.
You unfortunately will have your arms and legs torn off and be turned into a human fountain. If you chose door number 2, congratulations, you have lived on to see the daylight. If you chose door number 3, sorry to say you will be diddled by Freddy Krueger for the rest of eternity. Thank you, and for some reason Will wanted me to say...
God damn it.
Is
Who gets those bleeps?
Bleeped?
Right. Who gets those bleeps?
I don't know. You're the one who's in charge of the bleeps. I don't know who you give those to, but I will say this. Damn you and your game, Will. I got the kitty diddler. I got stuck with I didn't even get a choice. I got to take the leftover door.
You could have picked the same door. You could have won the same door as me.
I don't think that's allowed. I think we each have to pick one of the 3 doors, right? I mean,
yeah.
I feel like it worked out great.
That's what keeps it most interesting.
I mean, I got the Freddy tattoo. I guess it makes sense.
Gee, you should be ashamed of that thing. That's a fun game, though, for some reason. Like, it's so simple, but I kind of like it.
It works.
Yeah, I like Slasher Roulette. I don't know who gets these bleeps, man. I don't know if Ghostface gets it and, like, Will found a loophole here, but they should go to Will, right? He made him say it.
I don't know. I don't know the rules of what gets bleeped and what. I still don't understand why certain stuff gets bleeped and certain stuff doesn't.
You are well aware of the word that was used in there that got him. You know what we're doing.
No, I know that, but I don't know who gets those bleeps.
Son of a bitch. I feel like it's got to go to Will. Ghostface wouldn't have said it if it wasn't for Will. His job is to read these text messages, so he's kind of fucked, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's your call.
They're going to Will. Fucking goddamn it, Will.
Thrill me.
That's a fun game, though. I do like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good time. That was fun. Quick and easy, you know? I like that.
I'm really surprised Rob didn't try to fuck Tony Todd in it, though.
Oh, Tony Todd, but I hope he's not on the other side of the door.
I don't appreciate the diddle thing either. He must be talking about remake Freddy. He has to be, right?
Well,
Or
he doesn't
just
have
regular
to be,
Freddy.
but
Freddy's just
Not going down that road.
that's just his thing.
All right, so we're going to take a really quick break, and we will be right back with Vince DiSanti, Never Hike Alone 1 and 2, and then Never Hike in the Snow, all that. Enjoy it. We'll catch you on the other side with Jason Ray. We're sitting here with director of the Never Hike Alone franchise, we can call it now. We'll get into that a little bit. Vince DiSanti, how are you doing, sir? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Mike.
No problem. That is actually something I thought of just now. Forget the run sheet that I had going on here. The Never Hike Alone movies have caught on huge. How does it feel to kind of make your own franchise in a way? Because that's what it's kind of turning into.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a realistic goal. Let me say that at the beginning. Like, obviously, like my lifelong dream would be to have the captain's chair of the Friday the 13th franchise and write 15 stories. Like, I've been writing Friday the 13th stories since I was a kid and coming up with different ideas about Jason and what he is and how did he get that way and why does he keep, why won't he die and like all this stuff. And so for me, it was just this fun exercise. It was going out on my friends for the weekend and being like, hey, I'm building this cool Friday the 13th costume. Wouldn't it be cool to do like a 5-minute short, like where it looks really good? Like, I think we have some equipment that we could make it look like a professional film and maybe people will think it's the real thing. And my friends were like, yeah, let's give it a shot. Like, never did we think that was going to turn into like 8 years of like struggling through two like COVID and like a whole industry shut down just to like make these like 3 movies to then hijack the franchise and finish a story that I think a lot of fans always wanted to see finished, me included. It really just started out of a love for the franchise and sort of with many years, I would say dating back to Jason Goes to Hell. And you could even lump in a little bit of part 7 and part 8, just like never getting the satisfying ending that what I really wanted out of Friday the 13th, and also sort of watching Friday in a sense slip away from what it used to be to me and not being able to express to people like, if Friday the 13th would just do these things, I think that it would find more success. And after arguing with people on chat rooms or I guess forums for many years through my 20s and 30s, I just finally decided to pick up a camera and show people and be like, this is what I think could make a really interesting version of Jason. And we'll just see what happens. And yeah, it's crazy to think that like this literal 5-minute short that I wrote that was, I think, 6 pages long ended up becoming, this lifelong adventure that I think is going to be, one of the highlights of my life now.
Yeah. And there's a lot to get into with all that, which we'll get to later on because you kind of touched on a lot of them. Like, I do want to talk about your projects as well, because, the franchise is great, but what you guys are doing is really special here. The Never Hike Alone 2 came out last year.
Mm-hmm.
All the films looked, in my opinion, looked great. But this one had the production value, you can tell right out of the gate, is higher. What was it like? Because we hear a lot of people where they say, oh, if you give a movie more money and they'll fuck it up.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about that in sequels a lot. You got more money and you didn't fuck it up. And I feel like Never Hike Alone 2 is the best out of the 3 of them. So what was it like really having to now prioritize certain things, and where do you spend the money? What do you do? How did you handle that?
Well, I mean, the core of it comes down to what are the scenes most needed to tell the story. I think that very early on, I decided that I wanted to make a Friday the 13th film that was story first and everything else second. But when a kill does come up, we really go after it. Like, if the kills are good enough, the fans will wait. And in the meantime, let's create characters that feel like they actually belong in a real world and they weren't just conjured up to, us all sit around and watch them die. And that's really sort of the commentary that Never Hike in the Snow was about, because we open up the film with what everybody wanted in the first movie, which was to watch somebody brutally die. And we came up with a very artistic and big way to start the second film off with like a big bang. And then we slowly deconstruct it to be like, well, now meet his mom. Like, how do you like that? Like, how does that make you feel, you jerk? You were just cheering this guy's death. And now, you're watching this mother cry and you're seeing the effect that Jason has had on this society. What was it like to approach it that way? And, so because we led with the story first, it was just sort of, that's the Friday the 13th I always wanted to see. I wanted to see them actually sort of like look back. And that's what I loved about like parts 4 through 6 was that there was a story going on. You were watching Tommy go through 3 different stages of his life, and there was some type of continuance. And, you know, it was like, okay, where's my hero this week? Like, what adventure is he going on against Jason? And, you know, although we didn't jump into the first Never Hike Alone knowing that we were going to have Todd Matthews or being able to pull in other people to do that. But I think as the films grew and we got more money, I had sort of at the same time been doing more time on live action sets, working on like American Horror Stories and The Rookie. And, you know, I worked on a few episodes of, what was it called? The Kaminsky
Ghost
Method.
Files.
Yeah. Well, Ghost Files is my little show, but but doing that stuff was sort of like, I was seeing like what the level of standards were being done at the highest level. And I always wanted to find ways to like, you know, I would see, you know, my friends would do indie films, and like, I worked on a lot of indie films, and, you know, there was just sort of this look that indie films had that you just sort of couldn't get away from because of the technology wasn't there. And then when the technology started to really cross this line, it became our goal as a team to sort of always push that narrative. Like, let's do the procedures that the highest level professionals do, but we'll do it on a smaller scale. And so as long as we sort of are crafty with the way that we light, and like we pick good locations, like we block really, really well, and we put a lot of work into like the camera work and all of that stuff to really have a good presentation, that, you know, if we have the story, the presentation, and then everything, you know, and we shoot it with these cameras that are, you know, now shooting up to 8K, like, people won't be able to tell the difference. And, you know, with the money came, you know, Never Hike Alone was, you know, still $50,000 to make, because we had to get lights into the woods. We had stunt coordinated, like we spent the money on stunts. And so you find things to spend the money on, like the stunts, like the effects, the costumes, the locations, going to an exterior, hospital where you're actually shooting at a real hospital, and then going to a stage where the stage looks like a hospital, and, you know, raising that money and having the fans help us to go to these locations to bring that scope and that scale to make it to world build. You know what I mean? We got to get out of the forest and do like to rent cars, to feed everybody. You know what I mean? That becomes super expensive. You know, a lot of people, we're driving up to the mountains, so we're staying in Airbnbs and staying at the camp. And so, you know, you start to realize like how far the money can go logistically, and how fast it's either going to run out, and then kind of build it off the best there. But go ahead, Kat. Sorry.
Oh no, you touched on something that I thought was really interesting. I don't want to move too far away from it. I say this with love for Never Hike Alone. I say this with love for Friday the 13th. But I think that it's very interesting that the direction that you decided to take it in was more story focused, because a lot of the reputation that Friday the 13th as a franchise has was not for story. It was not for continuity. So, and I think it's something you did really well, was incorporate that kind of focusing on the characters and the plot. But I am curious as to what it was about Friday the 13th specifically that caught your attention for that kind of a direction.
It was years of arguing with Halloween fans on horror forum, because they could always pull out the card of like, well, at least Halloween, the original, is a good movie. At least it's like got a good script. The story makes sense. Like everything's grounded. You could actually believe that it could happen. Like Jason doesn't even make sense. Why does he even come back? All these things. So for me, it was like, wow, imagine if someone made a Friday the 13th that had as good of a story, or at least was able to stick to its laurels as well as the first Halloween did. Like, what does Friday the 13th look like when it doesn't have those glaring weaknesses of them not paying attention to the clothes that Jason's wearing from one movie to the next, or that he looks completely different, or, you know, they've jumped 3 different states, you know, and had 3 different movies, and they're, you know, New Jersey, Connecticut, then California, and then Atlanta. And like, just what does it look like when you make, not just like, for me, what the fun thing about Never Hike Alone was like, okay, we made the first movie, but now if we're going to make more, let's do what the films never did and actually have the continuity mean something, that literally the same mask is used in every single film. and it survives all 3 movies until we start damaging it at the end. And then we have the, a couple extra Hawks made, but we always wanted to bring back those elements. And although we changed little things, and it's funny because it was actually a learning lesson for me as a filmmaker to realize, like, okay, this is why things change on movies, because there's so much time that happens in between them, and you get different people and you lose shit, and you realize, the jacket from the first movie was never going to survive to the second movie, and maybe we should use a better material. But it was also the kind of the thing of like, what happens when you ground the story and you hold it to, if you create something in story, don't just go away from it, like have it actually lead to something. And so what had happened to me was that when I started my career in film, I started in feature animation, like feature children's animation, but I was working with people who were at the founding of Pixar, who had worked for Disney. Some people had even worked for Walt Disney. And these were people who were smart storytellers who I got to go to work with every day and learn from. And everything we talked about in animation was about story, character. We talked about the characters, what their arcs were, what their, who are they at the beginning of the movie? Who are they at the end of the movie? And my brain just started to sort of latch on to these tools. And so when I was writing scripts, I was, following these rules that I was taught. And when I started writing these Friday the 13th fan films, I started to apply these rules and look at every single character as someone who needed an arc, even Jason. And so I spent a lot of time analyzing, the things that Jason was going through. What type of things would Kyle go through? And we brought Tommy back into the story. Like, where has Tommy been? Why has it taken him so long to get here? And sort of asking the types of questions that fans would ask, and then using that knowledge that I had to be like, let me write these stories as if, I got to present them to producers of Toy Story 2. And I have to pitch them on story that makes sense and is heartfelt and emotional and, it does these things. And it will be something that Friday the 13th has never done before, because no one expects the story to be good. But if the story is good, imagine how good Friday the 13th could be, because we already love Jason just for being who he is in some of the worst laid plans that you've ever seen for movies ever. And he still overcomes that and captures the minds of people around the world. So let's put him in a situation that is actually going to help elevate him even further. And that was sort of the mission of the first Never Hike Alone, was reintroduce audiences to Friday the 13th with a tone and a viewpoint that I think only people who really love Friday the 13th have. We have that reverence. It's like holy ground to us. Let's go onto the holy ground of Camp Crystal Lake and bring people back to the roots and introduce them to a Jason that would feel like it's capturing the essence of the early films. And he has those humanistic qualities, but at the same time, it's that Jason that we all really grew to love, which is this boy who won't die, this monster that has grown out of the lake and can't be put down, and there's no answer on how to put him down. And let's start building towards those sort of mysteries we've always wanted to know about, and at the same time do our best not to make it feel ham-fisted or make it feel cheesy. And it should, it was really kind of trying to ride that line. And I think that it was a challenge, but at the same time, it was a lot of fun, because as you can tell, I'm passionate about this, and I don't mind spending a lot of time in my own brain or talking to other Friday the 13th fans about the subject, or watching the movies and studying them a little closer and saying, ooh, that's an element I think is a good element of Friday, and I'm going to carry that on. Right. Or, you know what, the film doesn't need this. Like, it doesn't need, like, I'm putting this on YouTube. There's no reason why I should put nudity in this movie. There's no reason for anyone to be nude in the movie unless it's Kyle, and then we'll have him shaking his ass around. But at the same time, I don't want to get censored, and I don't want to get, shut down. So
it's not worth all that. Yeah.
And honestly, as a kid, like, I'd watch the movies, like, I'd get in trouble if my mom walked in while watching that scene. Like, that's the only reason why I watched the movie. I was there for Jason. It was like, yeah, yay, boobs. But like, it was never like, oh, I need boobs in the movie. But like, there were some people that we made it, and they were like, where are the boobs? And we're like, what? Like, how old are you?
After all we did, really?
Yeah.
That's what we got. Yeah, don't get me started.
Yeah, no. So it was like one of those things where it's like, listen, yeah, I get it. That's like part of horror culture, but at the same time, you weren't paying attention, because that wasn't the point of this movie. The point was to do what everybody always talks about, which is make Jason scary again. Well, it's easy to say that, but this is how you do it. And that was the other kind of part of it, was like, when we put Jason in those situations, make him scary, but everything else around it has to feel like a movie that you'd want to watch and want to be with characters and be around them.
Well, where are the boobs? That was my only question.
I was gonna say, I'm so sorry. I was also one of those people in the comments. Where are the boobs?
You see?
No.
You see what I was talking about?
Yeah. We slipped it in with the with the Playboy magazine. So that was like our little clever way of sort of like weaving it in without like putting too much of us, because I also didn't know if we were going to get off the thing. And, you know, I think once I started seeing some of the things that happened to other fan films on YouTube, I realized that we just got to stay far away from it. And we don't want to get, you know, we don't want the age restriction. You know, we want people to be able to access. And one of the things I do like about it, and I do meet a lot of younger fans, that parents who are big Friday the 13th fans were like, this is one we can actually show them. And they're the ones who showed us. And now they're interested in Friday the 13th. And now we're connecting through this thing that they found on YouTube. And I'm like, yes, like it's working. Like we're getting that next generation like this. So when the franchise does come around, there is a young audience there that hopefully has watched Never Hike Alone, or is like sort of been inspired to be there and sort of be that ground floor for the next, you know, bunch of horror fans that are going to show up to, you know, and anticipate Crystal Lake coming out, eventual movies, games, things like that. So it's just been, I don't know, it's been a lot of hard work, but it's been a lot of fun too.
I think that your movies will do that. They'll inspire another generation of Friday the 13th fans. But I think more importantly, even than that, is I think when people sit down and see the quality of these films that you've made, they're going to be inspired to hopefully go out and make their own movies.
Mm-hmm.
It took me about a year to watch Never Hike Alone. People kept sending it to me and telling me it was great, but it was also a fan film. And I had kind of dismissed those things for a long time. When I finally did sit down and watch it, I was blown away by the quality. The writing was really good. It looked good. It didn't look like what I thought a fan film was going to look like. And I think the more people that see that, hopefully will be able to look at what you've done here and go, hey, maybe I can do that too. And it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to do it. I don't need millions of dollars to make a quality film.
I also hope that it inspired, because I think a lot of people are making have been making fan films, but I hope it like serves as a demonstration for like, here's what happens when you put the time and care into that. Because I had kind of that same reaction as Rob when I heard there was a Friday the 13th fan film. My expectations were not high, but it does have that like you can tell time and effort went into making these. And those are, I hope it doesn't just inspire people to make more fan films, but that like it inspires the people who have that level of passion for the franchise.
Well, I mean, I think there were definitely a large spike in fan films after the first Never Hike Alone came out. And there were a few that were going on at the same time of us and starting to build their momentum. But, you know, I think that we showed people that, like, first of all, like independent filmmaking equipment was getting much better. You know, I think by that time we were on the Phantom 3 for drones, you know, around that time. I think we had like a Phantom 3 Professional, which shot 4K. And gave us a good picture and sort of gave us that element that, you know, a lot of independent films didn't really have there. If they had shot with drones, the quality wasn't as good. So you could tell, even with the digital cameras, like the quality just sort of wasn't there. But we crossed this threshold at that time that really showed people that like you can get a cinematic look out of some very inexpensive equipment. And so, you know, there was the sense of camaraderie. I always tell people, like, when you do a fan film or you do something that's all volunteer, you really got to treat it like you're in a band. Like, no one's going to get paid. You guys are going to do road trips to go play shows, and it's going to be a lot of hard work, and you're not going to get a lot of money from it. But what you're going to get is the experience of working together. And a lot of the fun part for us is that we were all up and coming filmmakers. Like, we had been working for people who were making some big movies, but we weren't getting to participate or make the final decisions and say, well, if I was running the show, it would go this way. So all of a sudden you had, you know, a group of, you know, young upstarts who all had good visions for what they wanted to do. Everybody brought something to the table. And we were able to go execute those things. Like I have to be very thankful for our first DP, Chris Ellis, and what he taught me about camera and what he was like, I've always wanted to do this, but I've never had the time. Like everyone, I would say that one thing that always hinders people is they get an idea and then they want to rush out and just go make it. And I even fell into that, you know, that trap where when I tried to make, there was a version of Never Hike Alone that I tried to make in around 2014 or 2015 that was a complete failure. And I never showed it to anybody. Like, we watched this like a little team. And even we were like, well, there's shots that are just completely out of focus. Like, look, the mask popped out of the shirt there. You can see that it's a latex hood. Like, there's all these things that just didn't work. And like, nobody wanted to go up and reshoot it. And I realized that like, I should probably slow down and take my time and do this right. And much of Never Hike Alone 1, the reason why it looks the way it looks is because we spent 6 months just messing around in the woods with cameras. Like we weren't making the story. We kind of like picked a few different locations that like we would shoot, but we tried different cameras. We tried different techniques. We'd move the camera a certain way. We'd color it in a certain way. You know, we were working on the camp at the time and we were just refining our skills. And then once we felt like we were ready to go, we started going out and actually shooting the movie and putting pieces of the scenes together and writing them, adding more to the movie and coming up with more ideas. And it was very organic. And at the end of that process, you know, I learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes. You know, we came back from those mistakes and we were obviously able to deliver a film that I think surprised people. It doesn't surprise, and the whole time I knew what I was working against. I knew that I was working, one, I was a fan film. That was going to be the first turnoff. Two, there's found footage. So that was going to be a second turnoff for some people. And three, that it was one guy. And that I was like, basically like, there were my three strikes that I knew I was working against the whole time. And I was just thinking like, man, if half the people like this, like, I think that's the best I can hope for. But it was fun because when the first reviews came out, it was basically the same sentence. And I remember Meredith's board I remember Meredith's review the most because it was like, now I know, like it literally starts off with like, listen, I know I say fan film and you cringe, but you have to hear me out. Like Never Hike Alone just played Telluride Horror Show and it is standing toe to toe with all of the other films that are here. And I know that's crazy to hear, but you got to check it out. And, you know, I really got to credit her. I got to credit John Squires, the people at Dread Central, Friday the 13th franchise.com, because they were the first people to really vet us and then turn around and say like, this is legit, watch it. But again, like it took a year for you guys to sort of turn around and be like, but really like, and I totally get it. And like, I never blame anybody, but it's fun to watch people come around because it just shows the testament of the work that went into it. And, you know, that's the team that we assembled, the way that the film grew. Like, you know, it started as a 5-minute short that we were going to shoot at these cabins that we had no access to interiors. And then the people who own those cabins tipped us off to the camp that we eventually found, which was an actual abandoned camp that we took over and had interiors. And it went from a 5-page script to a 25-page script to a 50-page script. And we were just adding as we went because we were discovering things and doing that. And so the one thing about Never Hiking, like what is always interesting to me is that as much as I love Never Hike in the Snow and Never Hike Alone 2, they're very much products of, okay, we learned from all our mistakes. We're going to come up with game plans. We're going to function exactly like a studio functions. We're going to do it that way. There was something about the organic process of Never Hike Alone that felt like we were on a wild adventure that we had no clue where it was going to end up. And it's an experience that it comes across in the film as well. I think there's something about the energy of the movie that when people watch it, they sort of sense it. And then after that, we were like, oh my God, we have like, people are like trusting us with the control of this story. And I may get to tell the story, the Friday the 13th story I've always wanted to see put together. Now I have a responsibility. At first it was, oh, if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't, whatever. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, keep going. What's next? Where's the next part? And it's like, okay, now the expectations have been met and exceeded. And now I have to keep meeting those expectations. You know, and when the money got involved, it was just sort of like, thank God I had the training that I did. Thank God I had, you know, spent years as a production manager and, you know, training to be a line producer and spending time on set because, you know, I was able to put factual numbers on a budget and say, this is what it's going to take to shoot these things. And here's an actual plan on how to achieve some of these ideas and go. And, you know, one of the things I'm most proud of is the fact that I've been able to sort of package this into a set of steps to do and help other people follow these steps and also realize their dreams, like helping the Jason Rising team, helping the Dylan's New Nightmare team, working with, you know, Deb Voorhees on 13 Fanboy and working with this indie spirit of being that, you know, if you follow this sort of work ethic and you follow this level of, you know, taking your time, doing it right, you know, following through and being responsible, that you can walk out the other side of it with like a fan base, which is cool, you know, and you can actually like, you can answer the dreams of Friday the 13th fans around the world, because I guarantee you that everybody who's made a Friday the 13th fan film has found their fandom within the franchise. It's a pizza with 12 different slices. You know, it's 12 different movies that sort of all have 12 different things to say and do. You know, maybe 3 and 4 are probably the most similar to each other, but you know, there's all these offshoot stories that people could tell. So to see people just now being like, well, I'm going to tell my story now, and to see these different things, it's been a lot of fun, because it feels like in the wake of the franchise letting us down in its own right by not creating movies and getting stuck in the lawsuits and doing all that stuff, fans have just been entertaining themselves, and it's been hilarious and entertaining to watch.
I was going to mention that there was that lawsuit that's kept new stuff from really being made and everything. And I feel like your movies really stepped in and helped fill that gap, as you mentioned the other fan films as well. But
right.
When this thing started to gain steam, did you get contacted by anybody, Sean Cunningham or Horror Inc. or any of those people to kind of sniff around and see what the hell was going on?
No one ever really got involved. I met Sean a couple of times. I got alumni reached out to me. Like Doug Tate was one of the first people to reach out and say, I think you did a great job. Tom McLaughlin wrote me a nice message and said, I love what you're doing. Really inspired. Thanks for keeping the Tommy story alive.
Was that just the coolest thing ever? Sorry to interrupt, but like, yeah. That just tell us about that feeling. Like that just has to be so validating.
All right, let me, I'll rewind it just a little bit. I'll get to that. That will be a tentpole of this story, but it rewinds to the night Telluride that it came out. Now, Tom Matthews is in the movie. We didn't tell anybody what Tom Matthews is in the movie. And, that night was special because a lot of people didn't know what Never Hike Alone was going to be. We got enough buzz that people were tuning in, like Bloody Disgusting had posted about it. So we at least had a few hundred people that were going to tune in. And I remember sort of not knowing how people were going to take it. And I went through the whole screening. I did the Q&A. It was sort of all a blur because it was just like, thank God the movie played. We literally handed in like the movie like the day before, being like, here it is, it's done finally. Like we flew with it. We hand delivered you the movie, plug it into the system, let's do it. And the film played, and I didn't know how it hit. And then I sat down, like everything ended. I walked back to the hotel room. I flipped open my laptop and I started seeing the reviews, and I was just floored. I mean, people were commenting on the movie. It was mostly positive. I mean, it was all positive for the most part. And people were, the reviews were insane. And so it was just like this. It wasn't just the fact that, the film had sort of been well reviewed. It was that we had worked so hard. We went through so many ups and downs, some low lows. We thought at moments that the movie wasn't going to get made. And for a while, we didn't know if it was going to be any good. In the editing room, we were like piecing the thing together, and it was, at one point it was just a mess. And I was like, did I make a mistake? And then, to come out the other side and have people like not only like it, but it's like, it's the thing you dream about. You know what I mean? Like you joke about it at the beginning of the project, like, hey, imagine if we make it and it goes viral. And then, you just expect it like, well, you got to be realistic. Things just, people don't really love fan films, whatever. And then all of a sudden it starts going viral, and you just sort of it becomes this one wave. And so all of a sudden it was like, Doug writes me, and I'm like, that's cool. I bump into Derek Mears at a convention, and I hand him a flyer saying, hey man, I've been working on this thing called Never Hike Alone. And he goes, yeah, I saw the trailer for that. That looks awesome. Good luck. And then all of a sudden you get a message from Tom McLaughlin, who's my hero. You know what I mean? And so it was just, it sort of was this thing that just kept happening, where it was like it was this constant wave of like opening up all these doors. It was like I unlocked a new level of Friday the 13th fandom, where they were letting me behind the scenes like it was Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. And I was getting to see how everything was made, and getting to sit down. Like I got to have dinner with Joe Zito and ask him questions about Friday the 13th, where I learned that Joe considers Jason an undead killer in that movie. He says, yeah, at the beginning of the movie, he's dead and he comes back to life because that's what Jason does. And I was just like, wait, what? I was like, have you ever said this in public? And he was like, I don't know, probably. Like, well, and it just kind of went on. Eventually meeting Deb Voorhees, getting involved with the 13th Fanboy Project, and then ending up on a movie where I get to fight CJ Graham and Kane Hodder. I Superman punched CJ Graham in the face. Like like, and it's funny because it's just, I'm doing these things and they're, sometimes they're jobs and sometimes they're these things, or I'm getting to go to conventions and talk to people, but like I'm a fan. And so it's just this really cool sort of, it's tough to explain. And I honestly, like I'd say this to a lot of people, like it's tough to see the forest through the trees sometimes, because when it keeps happening, you sort of just kind of settle into it. And now, like I got into a habit where Tom and I were going to, every 6 weeks we'd go and grab coffee in Hollywood and talk about what we were working on. And like, he has the music with the sloths, and he was teaching at the local, at a college that was nearby. He had some projects that he was working on that he was trying to get off the ground. And, we talk about Friday the 13th and the future of it. And, going back to something you said a little bit before, like it wasn't just the lawsuit. It was the fact that the studios literally couldn't figure out what they wanted to do. They couldn't figure out a sequel to 2009. They canned that. They had David Bruckner do a found footage that they canned. Then they had him come back to do a 3D version that they canned. And they brought Brett Eisner on to write this like really weird, movie that almost got made. They were literally painting the cabins in Georgia when they shut it down after Rings 2 bombed. And they went, we're not going to do Friday the 13th for $20 million if, Jason Blum's out there making $5 million movies and getting, $150 million back. Like we're just spending money wrong. So we're not going to make any more Friday the 13th. So in 2017, Never Hike Alone came along at a time where it caught Friday the 13th fans when they were at a low moment. Like the game had come out and that was fun and we were all enjoying that, but like people really wanted a movie. And, with them canceling the movie, it opened up this door for us because there was a need for Friday the 13th. No one was answering that need. The fan films that had come out before it had sort of suffered from not having access to the equipment, or maybe just not, having that sort of skill set to tell, such complete stories or know how to create scope and scale in the way that we were doing it. And there was just something new, and it felt like it could sort of settle in for what we weren't getting from the studios. And I think that, hopefully, and they still feel this way, but like Horror Inc. and anyone who was involved with the franchise never got mad at us, never sent us a cease and desist, never gave us any inkling that they were going to sue us. I met Sean a couple of times and he always acted like he never knew what Never Hike Alone was. And if he doesn't, that just means he doesn't pay attention. You know what I mean? And I'm like, good, keep looking the other way. Like,
right.
Deal with other things. I don't mind. You know what I mean?
I feel like either thing could be true. He knew exactly what it was and was just acting that way, or he just has no idea. Everything I've ever heard about him, he seems pretty aloof.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know how to read it, but he was always really nice to me. And, I got to meet Victor Miller. I actually asked Victor Miller in a Q&A. I said, would you ever, if you gain the rights to Friday the 13th through this lawsuit, do you have any intention of pursuing, cease and desist against the fan films? He goes, no, why would I? It's like free marketing. They're just out there having fun, as long as nobody's making a ton of money. And I think that, even as we started to raise more and more money, obviously we've had people be like, well, how are you not getting sued? Like, what do you mean? Why does it cost that much money? I think people who were in the film business, who knew what I was doing, they're like, how are you doing that with so little money? Everyone looks at the looks at the crowdfunding, goes $350,000. Holy shit, I've never seen $350,000 in my life. Now it's like, this guy just got one to make a fan film. And in my head, like I had come from the school of like, I was working on $70 million animated films. And so I've worked with giant budgets and worked with giant teams. And it's like, how do you replicate these giant ideas on a small scale with the team that we have and actually have it meet the potential of those things? So it was, especially shooting in California with getting the locations and the permits and dealing with SAG and doing all that stuff. It's like, people don't realize that like a lot of the film's costs get eaten up on things that like, unfortunately don't like in any other way, like really end up on screen, which like, I want to spend it all on people and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to spend it on insurance and like, pension, like all these other things that just sort of don't make for a better movie, but it's the things you have to pay for in order to have permission to shoot movies. And we could no longer just escape into the forest with 3 people anymore. We were expanding the stories into like multiple actors and dealing with unions and all that stuff. So we had to start doing things by the book. And, we're just lucky that fans showed up in the way that they did. And that it was nice that we got allowed to just celebrate this with fans. And we built this fan base, these people that kept coming back. I recognize names. Like when I would do the crowdfunds, I recognize names from previous crowdfunds. There's people that I've met traveling the country who, walk up to me and they're like, your film changed my life. When Tom Matthews opened those doors, I wept like a little baby. It's like, awesome. Like, that's exactly what I want to hear. I just wanted to give Friday the 13th fans a reason to cheer again. Like, it's been so long. And that was really the mission of it. And that's been the mission of it, is to sort of fill all these gaps. Was a fan of like, what is the real ending of Friday the 13th? Because I do not accept Jason Goes to Hell. Like, give me something that actually sort of like leads to something that feels like it's born out of this story. And that's where the story of Never Hike Alone 2 really came from. And that was, Never Hike in the Snow became an extension of it. So we could get Jason in the snow. And it allowed us to explore all these themes that were always there in Friday the 13th, but they were just left behind, flailing on the wind and never carried on and never talked about or ever discussed or really, utilized. I felt that Friday the 13th was leaving a lot on the table, and that if they actually used the assets that they were creating, that in turn they could tell a better story. And that's really, how it ended up, turning out that way.
And another thing that you had kind of touched on it a couple of times, you're kind of carrying that torch and for the franchise and being a fan too. Ultimately, there were a lot of callbacks in this movie to the franchise itself at several points. We've seen it a little bit in the previous films, but not so much. Like, they were glaring here. And aside from Thom Matthews being in the movie, like, that alone was huge, bringing that character of Tommy Jarvis back. But there were just little things sprinkled throughout the whole movie. How important were those for you to get in there? And also, what was maybe I think I know what the biggest one that maybe you don't see people catch often enough. But what was it? What was the thought process of making sure those things were in there?
What I wanted a true ending to the Paramount era, and I didn't want to discount any of the Paramount era films. And so, even though this is Tommy's story picking up, I still wanted to acknowledge that the events of Part 7 and Part 8 happened, and that also that the parts of there are parts of Part 5 that are also playing influence because something happened there that nobody can quite explain. And the elements of Part 5 that I were pulling from were like, if it's not obvious, it's all of these nightmares that people are having, and those are echoes of what Tommy experienced in Part 5. And to me, that's not just traumatic experience, PTSD affecting him. That's the actual literal curse haunting him, and that Jason is haunting not only him but the people of this town. Like, this whole dark cloud hangs over this entire town. And I always thought that was like an interesting thing. They never really talked about it because the whole movie was based on a curse. They talk about the death curse and the things that just keep happening up there, and how that was such a great story element that they could run with in both directions in the timeline. Not only what happens with Jason, but maybe this place has always been cursed. Maybe there's a reason why things happen here to certain people and things carry over. And what happens if you tell stories going into the past, and how does those stories carry into the future? And then from that point, it was like, I also knew that Part 7 and Part 8, continuity wise, really get off the thing. So I didn't want to so much get into any of their story bits, but just mostly that, what do these events look like from an outside perspective? And I believe the choice of words that we used on the newspaper articles that we kind of scanned past, and that was sort of inspired by the way that they do the opening to the Godzilla movies. They do a really good job of doing all the secret files, and if you stop them and read them, you actually learn things about what Monarch has been doing to study Godzilla and the monsters that are out there, and it leads to clues. But that at one point there was a house that blew up on the lake and nobody really knows what happened. At one point there were a bunch of kids who got on a boat and went on a trip, and nobody knows what happened. And that Tommy is the only one who really believes that Jason is still out there, because after his film, everyone really thinks that Jason is gone. And somehow, some way, Jason got released from the lake and never put back. And so if Tommy was still out there and he wasn't there to stop him in Part 7 and Part 8, that all of a sudden Tommy over this time has become this Don Quixote chasing windmills, looking for this monster that doesn't want to be found, trying to prove to people that the people who go missing in these forests are because that monster is still out there in this world where nobody believes him. And so it became about one of the big challenges of the film was creating this world around Tommy to make it feel like he would be isolated, that he would never get that proof to really show people what's really going on. And because he's got this shaky past, he becomes the main suspect. And then by adding Vinny as, Rick into the movie, that gave us even more reason, because we know that they don't like each other. We know that Rick's got a bone to pick with Tommy because he stuck him in the jail cell. He's the one who got the girl at the end of the movie, and everybody saw him as a hero. And it would be very easy for this guy to see Tommy is this crazy person who is killing people, blaming a monster that doesn't exist so he can act like the hero again. And he wants to stop that from happening and turn it on the case. And he wants to be the hero for once. And so it was, once we sort of got those story motions worked out for those characters, everything else just became about how did Jason exist in this world between part 8, where at some point he returned from Manhattan, took up residence in the camp again, and started living a more of a hermit life like he was in part 2. Like in part 2, he's very much about staying receding and trying to keep people away, and only until they encroached on his ground that he go out and attack. We brought that mindset back even further. Like in part 1, in Never Hike Alone, he lets Kyle come all the way into the camp and tries to give him as many opportunities to escape as possible because he doesn't want to draw more attention in this part of the timeline, because he just had a lot of attention on his ass because of the Mark Hill story. And so he knows that if somebody else goes missing, they're going to come knocking around again. He's going to have to escape into the forest again. He doesn't want to deal with it. It isn't until he crosses a line and sees his mother that he decides to act. You know, in Never Hike in the Snow, he only acts because he accidentally gets caught on camera and he has to do something about it. He has to take action. But you actually see Jason go through a moment of regret in the movie. If you're looking closely, you see him sort of realize that it was what he's really thinking is that it was his own fault that he got caught on camera. And this kid is dead because it's his own fault. And it's not just a kid. It's the son of someone's mother. And now I am doing to others what was done to my mother. So how am I any better? And why do I have to keep doing this? And so it was really cool to dive into that headspace and to put that type of information on screen visually, not necessarily saying it out loud. But if you watch closely and you sort of have that perspective while you're watching, you start to realize that, like, as everyone else is going through arcs, Jason is the one going through the biggest arc of them all, which was a lot of fun to actually give Jason a story rather than treating him like the mindless killer that he's been treated like in most of the films that are in the series.
You touched on something there about Jason getting from Manhattan back to Crystal Lake. Somebody needs to make that movie.
That is a movie in our timeline. Right now, the working title is called The Defeated because it's all about Jason in his most defeated state trying to return home. And it's almost like a road movie. It's like Milo and Otis with Jason.
Yeah, I love that. I was trying to picture it in my head when you said that. I was like, is it just Jason hitchhiking? But who's going to pick him up? Like what?
So because I'm pretty convinced I'm probably never going to get to make this. So I'm just going to start leaking details of it until someone says, it's a great idea. We should make it. Basically, everything on Jason is melted off. His clothes, his mask. If you've ever seen the concept art from the original Mummy of the way the mummy looks when it first arises, he's basically Tarman. Jason is Tarman walking home, and he kills multiple people, but he never touches a single person. Like somebody sees him and basically somebody stopped at a rest stop and they hear something and they see his body and they go to run away. And as they run away, they get hit by a truck. There is a group of motorcyclists leaving, a county diner in the mountain roads. And as they're riding their bikes through the backwoods, they come down this mountain road and there's Jason standing in the middle of the road, like Sasquatch, turning around and looking at everybody, causes everyone on the motorcycles to crash and kill themselves. And he's just creating chaos wherever he goes. And he's just following the voice of his mother to return home. And at the same time, there's this other story happening back at home in Crystal Lake where this, for lack of a better term, John Rambo-like character has come back to Crystal Lake to sort of rebuild, or, he's just on the road. He's trying to find work. He's just trying to, he's living day to day really at this point. And he's actually inspired by the guy who shovels shit in the chicken's coop in part 5, who's just, this wandering vagrant who's just looking for a decent day's work, ends up on that same farm. It's left to someone's sister. Their husband had died. This guy comes to town looking for work, and somebody said, well, you should go out to this old farm. The husband just died. She needs help out there. So he goes out there and he meets the woman. He's like, what are they talking about? I don't need no help. That son of a bitch never worked a day in his life. I did all the work around here. In fact, the fact that he's dead, it's actually one less thing I have to worry about. But if you want to help me out. And he's like, well, maybe it is time you do less. You know what I mean? I'm just here to help and earn a decent wage. Please let me help you. And so she opens her door up to this guy to sort of help her out. But she's sort of slowly this ice cube that has to melt. And and he's just there, to kind of live. And he has to go find a place to live nearby. He doesn't have money to live. He ends up wandering in the forest and finding Camp Crystal Lake. And he realizes like, well, I can deal with this. Like I've lived in like some of the worst places when I was in the service. So, I'm going to take up residence here. And as he goes into the camp, he starts to sort of like his own PTSD and his own fears. And these old things about his past that he's running from really start to really creep up on him. And he starts to dream about them and sort of do that. But at the same time, he's settling into that life. And eventually one day he goes back to the farm and he's got this good balance. She's asking him where he's staying. And he mentions that he's staying at the camp. And she's like, you know what? You can stay in the barn. Move in tonight. Like you don't have to stay there anymore. Like you're good. Don't go out there. Don't live out there. And he's like, no, actually, I like it. I enjoy the peace. I think I should be away from people. I don't think I should be around people. And she's like, no, you don't understand. You have to get out of there. He's like, please, like take up residence here. He's like, well, I'll think about it. And he goes home that night. And so as these two stories are being told, the meat of the film is these two characters meeting back at the camp, like Jason returning home, like who's been sleeping in my bed, and this guy being like, who the hell is here? And the cool aspect of it is that we get to see the curse take a form that it's never taken before, where Jason in this weakened state is not really at the point where he can just full on attack somebody and kill them. Like he's still recovering from being washed out of a drain in toxic sludge. Like he just doesn't regenerate from that like right away. It's going to take time for him to heal and get better and kind of become what Ghost Jason is. But through the process of this, there's like this mechanism where as this guy follows Jason through camp, as he walks through one doorway, he actually ends up zipping into his own past and ending up in these war scenarios where he has to survive these war scenarios where then like a grenade explodes and he dives away from it and he's diving out another doorway into another part of the camp. And Jason's sort of there leading him through this maze of his own sort of guilt, which is kind of cool. And it leads to like his ending. And there's sort of a transformation at the end of the movie where Jason becomes the ghost Jason that takes the new mantle of this is why he looks this way. This is where the mask came from. This is where the clothes came from. And this is where he started this new life post the Paramount era that eventually led to the events of Never Hike Alone.
I love it. I only have 2 more questions for you, Vince.
Sure thing.
One of them is probably what we started with. I was kind of holding it to the end because I do feel it's a really big question. The lawsuit thing, we talked about it. Everybody knows about it. And the stranglehold that these movies are in within the franchise, it seems like it's coming to an end. And now the question kind of is, now what do we do and who's going to do it? Honestly, I feel like, and we've talked about it amongst ourselves many times of, who is going to like, who will direct these, who will write these, like these movies, when they do eventually start rolling, you should be the first candidate, in my opinion. If you did get approached that, hey, let's make an official Friday the 13th franchise movie, obviously you're not going to, do you have a direction in mind of where you're going to go? Are you holding anything back within the Never Hike Alone series with that in mind? Like which way are you thinking of going with that?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit more complicated of an answer now because you have Brian Fuller doing the Peacock series Crystal Lake, which is going to, focus on the beginning and the origins of Jason. If you look at what some of the other properties are doing, you have very binary results where you have, say, Chucky, for example. You have, the Child's Play TV series, which really follows the original franchise, does everything the old series does, and focuses on delivering that for fans. And then you have this new series that's going to be out that's, that already has a first film. They're probably going to do a sequel that's establishing a different kind of Chucky and doing a different kind of thing. My opinion is that Friday the 13th is meant to be splintered in that way, that whatever Brian is doing, the films have to sort of be the catalyst to that. Either, it has to be the other version of Jason. It has to, do it in a way that it's an experiential movie that's like a fun ride, a good roller coaster. But at the same time, the way it should be set up is as a trilogy. I think that the Halloween series, as far as like a model, is a good thing to relate to say that, like, even though you can say what you want about how those things were executed, the fact that they went in knowing that they were going to make multiple movies, the fact that there was, that has to sort of live on. I would love to come in and design something that has a franchise tag to it. That's, as we're working on the first movie, we're setting up things for the second and the third movie. And there are things in Never Hike Alone and Never Hike in the Snow that were set up that took years to pay off by the time we took Never Hike Alone 2. But even something as little as Jason ripping out the battery in Never Hike in the Snow, that was written in there because eventually we got to the hospital and Jason rips all the batteries out of the cars there too. And it was sort of to be an extension of that. And that was an extension of the Friday the 13th video game because he takes the cars out of batteries in the video game. So it was something that I was trying to sort of like, hey, this is something that's now a part of Jason's character. Let's make it one of his moves. Let's make it a signature thing. And so those are the types of things that I want to explore. Like, not what are the stories are going to be about? What are the signature moves going to be? And how are those things going to escalate and get even more exciting with each film? And I've said it publicly before, but I think that depending on what you do, if you did like a human version of Jason, I think it would be interesting to sort of go back to a story about Crystal Lake. And in my opinion, I think that there's some unexplored territory of like Steve Christie, because Steve Christie would have been there for the events of 1957. And I feel like something about either Steve Christie was supposed to be involved or somehow involved with Jason's death. And the reason why he's reopening Camp Crystal Lake is because it was basically his fault. And ever since that day, ever since Jason died, things have gotten worse. People got killed. He's trying to make up for it. He's tried to open the camp multiple times. He's been sabotaged. He's kind of going nuts. And all he wants to do is open this camp. And that the town is starting to suspect him and all of these different things. They don't realize that Jason has sort of been in the forest the whole time. Another movie would be about the hunting down of Jason, like a manhunt, sort of like Predator style version of Jason, where you have cops going into the movie, going into the forest to hunt down this person who has just created this mass murder spree. And all they know is there's a set of footprints leading into the forest. And this, team of deputies and state troopers have to go in and snuff out who they think is the killer, not realizing that it's actually someone else. Because at the end of the movie, they don't realize who the killer is. And a third film would deal with actual, like, what happens if Jason was actually caught, captured, and brought into a prison, and what would happen if they tried to execute him.
Holy shit.
And the whole third movie would be a prison break movie with Jason. And sort of like, you could reference Shocker in a way. You could, think about maybe some of the things they've touched upon in the Halloween franchise, but I think it would be something new. And there would be a way to like take the victims of the first two movies, or the victims' families and the survivors of the first two movies. Everyone shows up for his execution, and then he breaks out, and everyone's stuck in the prison with him. And you have inmates running around. You got Jason running around, and there's ways for him to sort of get I think utilize the sack in that movie, because they would have the executioner's sack they would have put on his head. So we would have reversed it, gone from the hockey mask to the sack, and then maybe brought the hockey mask some way that somebody brought it or something. There's that. So that's one thing I would do. The other thing I would do is I would actually ask them if I could remake Never Hike Alone, but this time I would give Kyle a dog, and I would expand the third act and sort of go back to the original story of not trying to tie it into the original franchise, but just tell a organic story of this guy who just keeps trying to escape Jason, and Jason just keeps showing up. And that, like, it wouldn't just like sort of what we do with Never Hike Alone 2 is where like he shows up at the ambulance and the ambulance kind of pulls away and then more shit happens. Like, I feel like a fun version, like another alternate version of Never Hike Alone would be like, what if he gets everybody in the ambulance and Kyle has to get back on foot and keep going out of the forest on foot, and the story continues from there. Who else is he going to run into? What other things is he going to have to overcome? And being able to do it with a bigger budget and sort of do bigger stunts and have bigger stakes and all those things. You can have him bump into different people in the forest. And there's versions of the Never Hike Alone story. Like, there's even Never Hike Alone 3 in a way. If you can think about it, we tease it at the end of Never Hike Alone 2 about, the person who tries to pick up after Kyle's footsteps, and the fact that story would be about Hiker Man 5000 going out into the forest, trying to be like his hero hiker who went missing out in this area. And all of a sudden, the difference between Never Hike Alone 1 and this is the fact that this kid gets bullied by other YouTube channels. So those other YouTubers show up to make fun of him on his own stream. And they follow him around the forest and they start live streaming, which takes it up to another notch. That like there's this place that exists, and we wanted to sort of work that into the narrative too, that like they don't want you out there filming, they don't want you messing around, like stay out of this area of the forest. And so what they end up doing is something that they never wanted to happen, which is they actually captured Jason on camera on a live stream, is what kind of leads to. But at the same time, they do disturb him and get, kind of run out. But there's this sort of bullying camaraderie story in the middle of it, but also a fun way to sort of bring the newer generation in. So there's different sort of styles, but I think all of these things can exist. Whereas if you have a Peacock series that is streaming and telling its own stories, you have films that are doing it. I think that these types of stories could also just exist as YouTube features, things that are just on streaming channels, just like live action versions of like the Batman animated films that they make. Like right now they're doing Crisis on Infinite Earth, part 1 and 2 and all that stuff. They're also making, Joker movies. They're making the Batman movie, James Gunn is going to do Batman. And then you have Matt Reeves doing Batman. Like all these things are existing at different levels with different budgets, with different things. I think they need to start doing that with Friday the 13th, because like, yeah, I would love it if they gave me the reins, but I think that there are other filmmakers out there that also want the reins. And I think that they should also have the ability to explore these things. Like I'm trying to bring Friday the 13th into animation. I think that I'm trying to just get horror animation just on the map even more than it already is, but like to bring some of the heavy hitters to it, to show that there is some commercial use for animation, that you can expand on stories like that. Stories I just pitched you, The Defeated. I think that would make a great animated story. I could tell a Pamela story that would also be a great animated story. Jason X2 would be a great animated film. I mean, yes. You know what I mean? Like 2D or 3D, like, and that one's easy because you just have Jason crash into Earth 2 and then it gets polluted with like space radiation. So they send the nanobots in to clean up the bed of the lake. And in the process, the nanobots find Jason, rebuild him. He comes out of the lake. And you just start a whole new killing spree at the new crystal.
I'm sold 100%. When do we get this?
Right? And think about how much fun that would be in animation, and where you could take it, and you could really take it to that zany level, I think, with the animation stuff. And that's some of the things we want to explore. We're doing Ghosts in the Fog right now, which is a nice 7-minute short film that's going to be a part of our next campaign. Or we're doing a master cut of Never Hike Alone. So that's going to be Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, Never Hike Alone 2, Disappear, and maybe some other things that we built over time, sort of all built as one fluid film because fans have been asking for that. And then on that, as a bonus thing, now we want to try to raise the money to do Ghost in the Fog. But a lot of that is like experimenting with, what does Jason look like in animation? What do kills look like in animation? And what does the camp look like in animation? And right now our team at Mako is building things in Unreal Engine, not like super crazy and like realistic, but like in that sort of Bruce Timm Batman animated world where it feels like quality animation, but it's something that can be made for a good price. And still kind of hit the bill. So like, I'm a believer that they've choked Friday the 13th for so long on content that as soon as this TV show comes out and it sets the bar, from there, they get everything else going and pivot: video games, movies, streaming specials, and everything. I mean, look at the way Godzilla is being handled right now too, with the way that Godzilla -1 was out. You had the Monarch TV series, you had Godzilla versus Kong, and you have the animated stuff that was coming on Netflix too. And for better, like most of it's great, and it's all different, and it's all telling a story about the same character, and they're all completely different films. And so Jason is just one of those characters that has that carte blanche, the way that Michael does, the way that Freddy does, the way that Leatherface does, that you can put them in different situations and fans will not get tired of them. These are the ones that will last.
Yeah.
These are the Dracula franchise, Dracula, Frankenstein, monster, Wolfman, and Mummy of our generation. And that's who, like, it doesn't matter. Just line them up, keep telling stories. And for better or worse, we'll pick our favorite ones. Even the bad ones will be good sometimes. But, I want to see people trying to elevate the bar. And then I want to see people having fun. And so it's sort of, as long as we're getting it all, then we're all winning. But if they keep trying to like thread the needle and only release one thing at a time, I just feel like they're going to miss their chance to really feel the full revival of what Friday the 13th could be.
If Jason goes to prison, I want to see that trial.
Yeah.
Imagine. These ideas are, and you're right, man. Everyone's so starved, and there's room for multiple things. And now's the time. Like, it's been so long. Explode with content. Everyone wants it. They're dying for it. I love that thought process.
Yeah, but it's also got to hit a standard, though. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
If you milk it in the wrong way, then all of a sudden it gets played out real quick, and it's probably going to get played out eventually. And it's, you're going to get that fatigue with it, but that's why everything has to be uniquely well executed. And that's what I'm hoping the franchise has. Like, if I could wish myself into one like position at all, it would be to be in a position where I worked for not just like the films, but the actual franchise, to be like, okay, like, let's figure out our branding. Let's figure out how we're going to launch these different stories and get these things going, and make sure that, no one is making another Jason Goes to Hell, that we're not taking these wild turns unless we know that the wild turn can be taken, or we set fans up to anticipate that wild turn. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just like go out there and mail it in. And I felt that like that was one of my issues with 2009, was I think it rested on its laurels so much, and it just sort of followed the old formula to a T, to its own detriment, because it didn't do anything new, and it didn't solve any of the issues that we had with the original films, because it didn't answer any of those questions. It created more questions, because I won't get into those things, but to me it did as a fan. And I was like, why isn't anyone trying to improve? Like, why is it always follow the same formula? Like, that just becomes predictable and stale. And I think that that's the thing. I think people have to really challenge the formula. Like, you can have some stuff that just threads that needle, but if you challenge the formula, I think they'll find a lot of gold that can be mined with this franchise.
Yeah, it has to be good. If it's good, it'll last for sure.
And people are going to show up and watch it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
As a Friday the 13th fan, which one is your favorite movie?
Part 6.
Personally.
Jason Lives.
Yeah, mine too. All right.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the correct answer. That one is so good.
And in an attempt to get you to argue with a Halloween fan one more time, so you brought up the Halloween trilogy. What are your thoughts on, generally on Halloween Ends?
I mean, I think Halloween Ends would have benefited if they would have just killed Michael after Halloween Kills and Corey stumbled upon Michael's dead body. And I think that would have been interesting to see him discover the dead body, pull the mask off Michael, see his, what am I saying here? Decomposed face. Like, it's basically almost down to the skull at this point. And there's just something about like staring into like Michael's empty sockets and all of this pain that he's been feeling, and realizing that like he is going to make the people of Haddonfield pay, and they're going to fear him because he's going to take up the mantle of Michael. And it's sort of this transformation movie about him dealing with this sense that all of a sudden something has infested his body, which also relates back to the original Halloween novel, which is about how Michael started to feel at some point and express to, I think, his grandmother in the book, that he was losing grip with reality. And it becomes this sort of Corey slipping into the dark side until whatever evil essence used to be in Michael is now in him. And it's like fed on this sort of thing that's been stirring inside of him, but that he almost becomes that essence of Michael. And that's how evil changes shape. I thought that where they dropped the ball was when like Michael and Corey link arms, and then they're staring into each other's eyes, and then Mike just decides to let him go. I think that is a choice that Michael Myers would never make. I don't think Michael Myers has any sympathy for anybody, and he would never relate to anyone, because there is nothing to relate to within Michael. He is for all intents and purposes, he's sort of like a supernatural cyborg in a way, because everything that makes him human has been zapped out of him, and all that is left is pure evil, if you go off of what Loomis says. And so just go with that. Just treat it like it's just every evil intent you've ever had, that is what is in control of Michael's body. He doesn't feel pain. He doesn't feel remorse. He's got Terminator like, emotions, and he's just, when he chooses to, he acts upon these impulses to kill. And that's what would invest Corey. And so you could and then you get the mystery side of it. And then the film becomes a mystery, and it becomes a little bit more of a thing, because you get the answer about Michael. I think they got Laurie backwards, like her being a crazy gun nut in the first movie and then her daughter getting killed, and that being the thing that like says, you know what, screw it, I want to make pancakes. Like, it didn't make sense for her art. I thought that there were things that just weren't working. I wish that she was involved in some way with Michael getting out. Like, she was going, like when they were transferring him, she was going to find a way to like stop the bus and try to kill him. And it's like her fault that he gets out, which I think would have been a great twist. But you know, they're all things I think that, you know, it's all woulda, coulda, shoulda, because you can look back on it with hindsight. You know, and I understand the, you know, the challenges they probably went through to get those movies. And I think they did do a lot of things right. Like, the 78 flashback was a lot of fun. I thought that they were on the right track in a lot of different movies, but each of those films sort of diverts from itself. You know, the first film, it was with Sartain making the turn, putting the mask on, which was really off-putting. The Evil Dies Tonight thing sort of took over the movie instead of just sort of being a background thing like it is in part 4, where, yeah, there's just some, you know, crazy rednecks running around with shotguns accidentally killing people. Like, we got that. Like, we get that sense, like it becoming that big mom mentality thing. It just sort of felt like this has nothing to do with the actual movie. And everyone can tell that that guy's not Michael Myers. Like, they've all seen him on TV. Like, obviously the guy who looks like Danny DeVito playing the Penguin in Tim Burton's Batman is not Michael Myers. So at least get someone who looks like him, like things like that. And then, yeah, with Corey, yes. I think that they sort of like, they try to have their cake and eat it too. I would have went as far to the point where after Corey dies and Halloween ends, that Michael's decrepit corpse would actually get up and actually like the essence would return to him and he would get one more go at trying to get Laurie, which I think would shock audiences like beyond belief, and then bring Michael into that supernatural realm, which I didn't think would be a bad thing, which I think would be a great twist. But you could also do it with a thing with just Corey being like the evil will carry on. And then this essence is, it's like, who's the next person in town who's going to turn? Because this evil essence is going to move and change shape again. And that's what they needed to set up. And they didn't. They just sort of said, okay, they killed Corey. We killed Michael. Let's throw him in the gutter. So we know that, like, let's throw him in this thing that like completely explodes his body. So we know we can never make a sequel again, which I also think is another mistake, to cut off, you know, other filmmakers from being able to continue storylines, because, you know, fans are going to ask for it. I think it's almost the job of a franchise filmmaker to leave the door open for the next person to come in after you and continue the story, because that's the spirit of these characters, is that they just keep going because fans want to keep seeing them. So do your fellow your fellow filmmaker a solid and give him, you know, story material to work with.
Well, what they like to do with the Halloween franchise is just start over all the time.
Yeah. And it's fine. I mean, they can do whatever they want. It's just like, you know, if they were going to do like a streaming series, like it would be kind of cool to see them take the, you know, the Cult of Thorn and run with that, you know, in its own thing.
Well, there is a series coming. I don't know if it's going to be streaming or whatever. And apparently they're going to start with the original film.
All right.
I don't know if that's the jumping off point or if they're going to retell that story. I have no idea what I'm really struggling with the Halloween series and the Crystal Lake series, because I don't know how interesting a television show about a guy going around hacking people up can be. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think that there's a lot of, like, I always thought about like the world that exists in there. There's, you know, there's money. These are rich people living on a lake. So there's money, there's relationships, there's, you know, there was a series of characters that were all existing around these times where these events happened, and the events that happen are interesting. And the way that people react to those events are interesting, because it does lead to Pamela eventually killing two people that, you know, she once worked alongside, like coming back to the camp and sabotaging it and having these reasons and sort of leading to those things. And the sense of like, where was Jason all this time? And if they're going to explore those things, that like, it's interesting because they're characters that we've always wanted to know more about. It's the responsibility of the filmmakers to do it in a way that doesn't feel like you regret getting the backstory. Because that's one thing we always say, like, don't give us the backstory, don't delve into it, because it always ruins it for people. It's only ruins it for people if it, in my opinion, if it's done in a way that feels trite and typical. Like, if we've seen it in another movie, if we've seen another character go through it, then you're not going to add anything new. You're just copy and pasting something. You have to come up with something fresh that feels like we're learning new things about these characters that we never thought about. And that becomes a fun experience for fans because it feels like learning something new about somebody you love. And when you start to realize things that make them even more interesting to you, I think that is a rewarding thing as a viewer, because you feel like the filmmakers and the creators understand the characters enough to give them stories about these characters that would pique your interest and you'd want to know more.
Yeah, that's all very valid points. And yeah, that's how you build a story. Yeah. And that's a conversation that happens a lot. A lot of people say, oh, it's this manyth movie. What are they going to do? It's like, well, if you set the table for something to do, you got something to do. It's just a lot of people get the franchise or the licenses, and they just want to jump right into the cool shit, which understood, because ultimately that's what people want. But if you can really slow burn it into something even better, that you have something. And that's what you did with the Never Hike Alone series, and we love it, man. The last question I did have for you, though, is I do see on IMDb you have listed Never Hike Alone Ghosts in the Fog. Is there anything you can tell us about that? Because honestly, I was always locked in with Never Hike Alone, but after seeing, I was so blown away by the second one that I'm even more invested for whatever the hell you guys are doing now.
So that is the animated. This is the first animated story that we're doing with Friday the 13th. That's the thing that we're building. It's 2D animated. It's about a group of people who just get lost in an intense fog trying to get back to their campsite. They end up wandering into Camp Crystal Lake and encountering Jason, and we send them on. It's just like, I think in a sense, it's a lot like the opening of Never Hike in the Snow. We really wanted to highlight what our Jason is capable of, putting, characters in unique situations to meet interesting demises and doing things in animation that you can't do in live action. So, it's sort of our testing ground to see what Jason looks like in animation. And we're hoping that will allow us to become our long-term, moving forward, outlet for Friday the 13th fan films, that when we want to tell one of those stories, we don't have to go through the process of making one of the live action ones, because there's just so many hoops that we have to jump through, that if we could just if I can just write the script, I can send it to my storyboard artist, we can cut together a story animatic, and we can get it animated. It can happen over a long period of time, over the computers, through emails, through Zoom check-ins, and I can continue working and doing other things without having to take months off to go shoot stuff. Plus, it allows us to explore, like I said, when you do an animated film, the thing you want to ask is, why is this an animation? And I feel like there are things to be explored in horror and animation that are really, really fun. I think it can be very entertaining for people. I think you can do certain things for mood and scares and things like that. And I just think fans will just really dig it. You know what I mean? I just think that's something they'll really take to. So that is going to be a part of our campaign this summer. We're going to have one goal to get the Blu-ray made for the final cut. It's called Never Hike Alone, the final cut. And then the first stretch goal is going to be Ghost in the Fog, which I think is going to be around whatever our goal is, plus about $35,000, which is definitely in our wheelhouse to raise. And I think if people really want to see it, the whole idea is that we want to come up with the ultimate home video edition of Never Hike Alone, where you'll get this super cut. You can get the other films as they were originally cut on that disc as well, along with Ghosts in the Fog, and along with all the special features and everything that we've ever made, just sort of this one-stop grab bag, double disc Blu-ray that, if you weren't able to get to any of the crowd funds before, you weren't able to do all those things, and you weren't here for the beginning of it, that if you wanted to take home something and you wanted something to keep of everything, that you could just get this, and it would be that, and Ghost in the Fog will be a part of it.
I'm here for it all. Honestly, I can't wait. Vince, thank you very much for your time today, man. Your passion is it shines. It's so cool to listen to you talk about these movies and hear how in depth you go with just the brain work that goes into so many things. And I'm glad you guys, you mentioned it earlier, Jason Rise and Fanboy and all those, you guys are keeping this franchise alive for fans throughout the shit we've never seen with a horror franchise before. We're glad to have you in the genre and what you're doing for it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. No, and thanks for having me on, and being able to spread the love and get people to know about it. Giving me a platform to share it with your audience.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Yeah, you're always welcome back.
And yeah, when you start crowdfunding again or whatever, let us know.
We'll do. Yeah, you'll see. You'll definitely see. We'll definitely be out there on crowd like we always are. We're taking a little bit of a break right now, but yeah, we'll do the announcements. We'll let everybody know. We're still working on the Never Hike Alone 2 fulfillments at the moment. So once we feel like we have a good handle on those, we'll shift focus to the final cut and take it from there. And in the meantime, people should just check out the films on YouTube. And subscribe to the channel. Each week I do I'm trying to, or bi-weekly or every other week, I do a show called The Ghost Files where people can tune in and ask me questions, or, if they got questions about filmmaking or just talk about movies that week, or I sometimes have guests on, other filmmakers. And we just, like this, we just have to sit down and have fun conversations about whatever comes up.
They're awesome too. I've checked out a few. They are a great watch. Let everyone know where they can check those out, where they can find you. Anything that they could do to support what you guys are doing.
Yeah, sure thing. It's Womp Stomp Films, WOMPSTOMPFILMS. You can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, I guess, and yeah, just follow us there. Anything you need to know about the franchises, you'll find out there. We have new projects coming out at the end of the year. We'll be announcing, some original stuff, some other fan films we're getting involved with. But we're really excited about, everything that we have coming up for Womp Stomp Films. And if you want to support independent cinema and you want to be a part of these films that we're going to make, we're hopefully going to create an avenue for us and other independent filmmakers where we can just rely on a very small, passionate audience to raise a decent amount of money to go make, horror films that we hope people love and want to keep supporting until we can't pick up cameras anymore.
Nice. I love it. Thanks for your time, man. We got to do it again at some point. It was a blast.
Oh yeah. Anytime. I would love to come on. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your night, dude. We appreciate you.
All right. You guys as well. Everybody have a great night and weekend.
Dope ass conversation. It looks like we're gonna have Vince on again in the future, which I'm actually really looking forward to, because the conversations were so in depth and he gave so much insight on so many things that it was hard to get to. I could seriously, he's one of those dudes I could just sit and talk to about Friday the 13th forever.
Yeah. I would also like to have an episode where he comes on and roasts more Halloween things.
No, we don't need that.
Maybe.
It's also dope because he's a fan, and I think a lot of times where you get a lot of directors, writers, whoever in film, and they get to a certain point, not that he's like, John Carpenter or nothing, but still, he made some very prominent films and busted his ass to make them. So, but he's still just, I'm a fan. And he didn't lose sight of that, which I feel like a lot of people in the industry do very quickly sometimes.
And that was something, on the note of having him on for a Halloween episode, that was something that I really liked in our discussion, is we asked him about a different franchise, and he wasn't just sometimes we fluster guests because we ask them wild questions from our own show mythology, but he had an answer very specifically, and a lot of people have weighed in on the Halloween Ends question specifically, where they kind of have beat around the bush or given us a very short, blunt opinion about whether or not they like the movie. But he you could tell he had thought about this before because he knew what he would fix, about Halloween Ends, which I just, and it's like you said, he's a fan. You can tell.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever flustered a guest.
I feel like we have. I feel like we've caught a couple of guests off guard.
I don't think we ask wild questions or anything. I think it's all perfectly normal.
You got a lot to David Howard Thornton about his ass, man.
I didn't ask him about his ass. I asked him if it was a stunt ass or his real ass. I mean, that's a legit question.
You asked him about his ass. It's the same thing. Damien Maffei wasn't a big fan over on Cult of Me asking him if Tom Brady was hot either. So, yeah, it does happen occasionally. It's our jobs. What are we going to do? All right. Looking forward to have Vince on again. Be sure, honestly, and I come across this a lot. I've shown 2 people this movie actually more. There were several people in the Discord call, and I just wanted to watch Never Hike Alone 2 again, because it's a really good movie. So if you haven't checked out these movies, I know a lot of people, kind of like Rob, you said in the discussion, that fan films people sleep on a lot because they just have that thought in their heads like, fan film, I don't give a shit.
No, well, I mean, in the past, fan films were like, shot on somebody's flip phone or whatever.
Yeah.
They looked like garbage and everything. But now people are really, they're putting effort into them, and people who, and also, I mean, like Vince, he's a guy who knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? He knows how to make a movie. You can watch the Never Hike Alone films and just look and go, this was made by somebody who understands how to make a film. Whereas, some fan films are just, somebody got their dad's camcorder or whatever. I mean, those look bad, but the technology is getting better and cheaper, and these films are starting to look better.
Yeah, but to a lot of people still, they don't give them a chance, so they don't know.
Right.
So anyone who hasn't checked out that, seriously, give it. If you don't like it, let me know, and I don't know, I'll buy you Taco Bell or something. Dude, these are really fucking good. Like, the's no way.
I didn't know there were free tacos on the line.
You're good shit. You watched them already. But it's just so fucking good, man. I feel like any true Friday the 13th fan, or even casual, there's a lot of casual Friday fans, if you don't watch these, you're missing out on something. And honestly, what the fuck else Friday the 13th related other than the movies you've seen a million times already have we even gotten to see, and how long? Like, why not? But we do have our Jason rankings from all the films. We're ranking his appearance, how the Jason looks, not abilities or any of those things are taken into account here.
Which I will say, it was really hard to do this objectively, because I found that I really wanted to weight my favorite movies higher, even though that's not always accurate to the look, it's hard to be objective.
I think, bias plays into those kind of things a little bit sometimes too, but anyway, you're buying me Taco Bell though, right, Mikey?
The fuck, I'm not. And especially not you, because I know you're going to want a Baja Blast, and we've already been over the whole Mountain Dew thing a million times.
Baja Blast, if you don't get Baja Blast, you're just doing Taco Bell wrong.
Well, they did Gremlins wrong, so I don't get a Baja Blast. Fuck them. Here we are.
Oh, all
right, so we have 13 on here. The ranking is, that's funny, it's 13. We do have, this is all the original films. Jason X is in here twice, because you have Uber Jason, you have regular Jason from the film. We also have Never Hike Alone Jason in here, and Remake and Freddy vs. Jason. I feel like those are fair to be included. Also, honorable mention before we get started, we did not, because they're not from films, have them on this list, but I don't feel like it would be right to do these lists without mentioning NES Jason and the Savini Jason.
Yeah.
Dude, the designs on these are crazy. NES a little similar, but the colors are fucking, I have the mask, like the colors are incredible. Yeah. And Savini he's fucking awesome. It's Jason from hell.
We also didn't include the first movie because
that too.
Yeah. Well, Jason is in the movie, but I don't, it would be last on my list if we did include.
It'd be second to last on mine. But speaking of, number 13 for me, bottom last on the list is Part 5. It's blue. It's not supposed to be blue.
What order?
He's got a blue jump, bottom to top.
No, I mean like you, me.
Oh, I don't
know.
Rob?
Is that
it doesn't matter. I'll just go because mine's the same as Mikey's. Yeah, new beginning.
It's a clean sweep here. Like,
yeah,
Perfect,
Roy,
beautiful.
That blue. I get why they did it, but it looks dumb.
It does.
It does look dumb. So number 12 for me, Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell. I can't get over the bubble head. The thing that really tripped me up the most here, the mask is so important. And we're talking about his appearance in its entirety, but the mask is so fucking important because, like, that's the thing, right? And the mask from Jason Goes to Hell isn't terrible, but everything else is horrible. So, yeah. Number 12.
My number 12 was also Jason Goes to Hell.
Look at that.
There's so little of that Jason in the movie that for some reason I I guess I never really thought about it much. I always thought it looked like a decent to good Jason, but when I was putting this list together, I was pulling up stills from the movie and I'm like, oh, this doesn't look good at all.
I had my number 12 is also Jason Goes to Hell.
Beautiful.
This is not going to be a super hot take list for me after all, apparently. My issue with this is that I went through like a very similar arc as Rob. I remember thinking that the Jason looked fine. It was just that we didn't see the Jason enough. And then it's just one of those masks. I feel like it's almost at an unfair disadvantage because it's one of those designs that looks better in motion than it does in stills. And looking at the list today to do this ranking, it's like I had a lot of still references, which, you know, but if it doesn't look good in a still, it loses points, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, that is fair. Because sometimes, and we've talked about this before, in mostly with like masks and stuff, you'll see a still and it'll look stupid, but then when you watch the movie, it actually looks better, like in motion and on screen, moving around. And I did refer to a ton of stills to make this list, so yeah, I mean that is fair.
Number 11 for me is Part 4, and it's not. This may be like a fucked up spot, maybe, but my reasoning is it's kind of the same as Part 3. It just has the gash in the mask as like really the biggest change. And I prefer, like, you know, I think the mask looked really good in Part 3 and 4. And I don't know, like, I like the cleaner look of it. So, I mean, that's really the only reason. Like, Part 3 is obviously above it somewhere. And it's hard for me it would have to be near Part 3, if, you know, essentially, but it's kind of the same look, really. So it goes at number 11 for me.
All right. Well, this is the first place where I differ from you. For me, number 11 was the remake. There's something about, I can't even quite put my finger on what it is about the look of Jason in the remake, other than something about the head doesn't look right to me.
I'll tell you what it is in a minute.
Yeah, number 11, because when in looking at the stills today, I was like, yeah, that head just, it doesn't look right.
Mikey and I are eye to eye on this list so far. It's not going to stay that way for long, I think. But I also had Part 4 here. I was kind of going through where I wanted to put this one. And it ranked low because this is one where Jason's look is really, really important to the plot. Like, they hype that up as an aspect of this. And I feel like it kind of falls flat in execution under the mask. And also, I don't mind the idea of the gash in the mask as much, but just
it's not that bad.
Like, looking at the stills side by side today, I felt like it was not as good as 3.
All right. My number 10 is the remake. So, Rob, we weren't far off. I hate that fucking look. I see, the thing is, though, again, the mask is pretty cool. Like, the mask isn't bad. They did have Sackhead in there, even though we didn't put him on here. But, you know, I feel like the remake, its ranking should get a small amount of credit for having 2 different looks of Jason in there, at least for trying. That's why I didn't get lower. Also, because it's an original look, so I didn't feel right putting it above 4, which is pretty much the same look as 3. The thing that pisses me off and also grosses me out, the hair. The hair on this fucking Jason drives me insane.
Yeah, I think that's what bothers me about it too. Yeah,
that's it. I'm telling you,
something. Yeah,
fucking terrible. So yeah, that's where it goes. Number 10. Like, honestly, that hair is almost enough alone to sink it straight to the bottom of this fucking lid. Like, they ruined, and he was just kind of like, he was really jacked up.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know. It was just a weird, it wasn't the worst take they could have went with, but why are you putting hair on the motherfucker? God damn it. Number 10.
My number 10, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, because I feel like this is one that people like a lot. Well, not a movie that people like a lot, but the Jason that people like a lot, and that is Jason Takes Manhattan. I think the mask. This might sound stupid. I don't know. When looking at the pictures today and everything, it's too big.
You're not wrong. That is, we'll talk about a lot later. We're going to be talking about Part 8.
Okay.
But my one big criticism with it is that the mask is too big. And it definitely was something I noticed in stills. I think the mask is fine. I think the Jason is fine. They're not proportionate to each other.
I couldn't get over the fact that it was too damn big. And I've never really even noticed it before, but I'm looking at these pictures today and I'm like, it's too big. It looks weird.
I got over it a little bit in the stills just because I do know that's something that's never bothered me before today. But I get where you're coming from. I see it.
God damn it. We'll talk about it again later.
All right. I think my take here is maybe going to be a little bit hotter than Rob's take. My number 10 spot, I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off. It goes to number 3.
Oh.
Here's the thing about it, is that if we were ranking, there are a lot of things, if we were ranking like the history of the Jason aesthetics, 3 is arguably, not even arguably, 3 is the most important to the Jason aesthetic in terms of plot. It's where he finds the mask. It's a very iconic moment. We don't really, the mask isn't lit the best. Like, it doesn't look great in the stills I was looking at today. And also, it's not always, we've talked about this before, the effects in 3 are really inconsistent and it distracts the hell out of me. If we're just talking aesthetics, I feel bad putting this one too high, like, just from looks. I don't love it.
God damn it.
I know.
All right. Well, that'll come up again later.
I put it up above 4 because even though I do feel like they're comparable in design and in the side-by-sides, I actually felt like 4 looked better. But 3 did try something new and they didn't nail the aesthetic part of it, the lighting of it 100% in this movie, but it put them on the right track and that made it an easy choice to put it above 4, I think. So that's how I feel.
Okay, we're at number 9, right?
Number 9.
My number 9, and I don't feel great about this, but it's Uber Jason.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's not so much the design that's like, because it looked great. Like, it really did. It's just, what do you compare it to? You know, it's so different. I'm very much. Well, I mean, but it's so different. Like, you can't compare. Like, how do you compare the mask to the other Jasons? You know, like, the outfit's so different. He's jacked. And it's just something very different. And I don't like change and, you know, traditionalist when it comes to these older franchises. And as much as I liked it, because it worked very well for the movie and it was cool, and I'm so glad it exists, it's just, if you give me that raw, gritty Jason, I'm going to like it more. So that's why it's where it's at. It's number 9.
All right. Fair enough. I think Uber Jason is, you're right. It's hard to compare to the other ones. And also, I think it's kind of, I mean, it's a look that I think is kind of divisive anyway. There are people who just absolutely hate it. And some people think it's really super cool.
I have kind of a point about Uber Jason, but I'll save it for when it comes up on my list.
Okay. My number 9 is Freddy versus Jason.
Wow.
A lot of people love this Jason. They go on and on about him. This is not one that was affected by the stills, although I did double check it in the stills and I still believe that I'm correct. The mask is too round and it's always driven me nuts. It does not, the shape is not right. It is too round.
I'm not even going to wait till when I get to it on my list, but I'm going to come out and say this. I think it's the best mask in the franchise.
Nope, too round.
I love it. It's a perfect mask. I have it. I have a replica of the mask. I love that mask.
Really? Is it just a plate?
You're a son of a bitch. It's a really nice mask. It's perfectly, it's just worn and all that shit perfectly. And I love it. And you're kind of crazy for that. That's wild.
Nope, the mask is too round.
I'll hold my thoughts until I get to mine, but I disagree strongly.
Okay.
Oh, my number 9 is the remake. I actually, this is the only one that for me, I was impressed by how good it looked in the stills, because I remember not being a huge fan of the Jason look in the movie. I was looking at the stills. I feel like this is the one that gets an advantage from me only looking at stills today. And I think, Mikey, a big part of it is because I didn't see any of the stills with the hair. Like, that benefited it a lot. I fucking hate that hair. But I think the mask looks good. I didn't love Sackhead Jason in this one, but that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about Mask Jason from the remake. And I do think that they did a good job making it. It has kind of that 2000s aesthetic a little bit, where everything was like intentionally real grungy. But I think the Jason mask is one of the few things that can kind of carry that design choice. So
not a bad mask, but yeah, everything that fucking
hair.
Gross. All right, my number 8 is Jason X as well, like the regular Jason and Jason X. I feel like this kind of counts towards the appearance because this is what we seen Jason as in the movie. It felt like they didn't try to really hide his height in this movie. And, you know, Kane Hodder obviously played Jason in Jason X, and he played Jason in several movies before that, and he always looked bigger. And I mean, like, as far as height, not really, you know, muscular or whatever, but they really didn't try and hide it here. Like he you know, Kane Hodder is not a small dude, but when you're thinking of Jason Voorhees, he's kind of the same height as everybody else. This one also had fucking hair. And I don't know why they put hair on Jason. It wasn't as bad as the remake, but it was still, because it wasn't like weird, disgusting strands of whatever the hell that shit was. But I still wasn't a huge fan of it. Continuity, like we talked about with Vince during the interview, it just doesn't make any sense. But the mask, it's a really good mask. And the outfit wasn't awful. And he did look like, you know, Kane was in great shape for this movie. He's far too busy for a lot of things. And it's obviously because he takes care of himself. So he looked jacked, and it kind of worked because he was, you know, shorter. So he was more like compact and just a ball of terror. But yeah, just, I don't know. Yeah, Kane Hodder was not a good height to play Jason. I'm sorry.
It's worth pointing out he's way too busy these days.
Way too busy.
Yeah.
That's worth mentioning.
What did he do? That fucking, what was he? A killer goat?
Kill Her Goats was the name of that movie.
Yeah. Far too. Hold on. Let's take a moment, real quick.
He, I know that Kill Her Goats was on the Blu-ray was on sale on their website. It was like a clearance thing for like $2.99. And I asked some people who I knew who had seen it if I should buy it, and they said that was $2.50 too much to pay for that movie.
They ain't lying. I don't know if this is the button I'm looking for.
I didn't.
Another one.
Nope. Yeah, I think I deleted the button by mistake at some point. That is a tragedy.
Oh,
I don't have the Kane Hodder button.
Well, that is sad.
God damn it.
Are we at my number 8?
Yes.
Is that where we're at? Okay. My number 8 is part 3.
Okay.
8?
Yeah. I don't dislike the look of Jason in part 3, and you can't, for me, you can't argue with the mask in part 3 because that is the mask.
It's literally the mask.
Yeah, like that is the first time we get the Halloween or the hockey mask, and it's literally the mask. But I think it was just I don't think it's as good as some of the other ones that we see. I think that while the mask is the mask, like the outfit is just kind of bland, you know, the clothes, there's just something about it that I don't love, the look, the whole thing together. I don't love. I like the performances, Jason, in part 3 a lot. But I don't like, I'm just not crazy about the look. Like, it's fine.
God damn it, man. All right.
So my number 8 also goes to Jason X. Not Uber Jason, just Jason X. Prior Uber Jazz. We ran into this issue. I don't know what to call him. Pre-Uber Jason X Jason. I had kind of a tough time placing this one as well, because it's not the Jason that I think of when I think of Jason X. And it's not necessarily the Jason I think of when I just think of Jason Voorhees, which kind of lost at some points. But just from a design aesthetic, I love this. Like, I don't mind that he seems a little bit larger in this one. It feels very intimidating. I think it's like a very scary Jason. And I think they hit on some of my favorite like design elements from other incarnations of Jason, which even though it wasn't like a great continuity hit, it felt like it really was a Jason for the Jason fans before we get into the Uberification of him. So I liked it, but it didn't do anything. Because it's not the one I think of usually, because I had to be reminded to put it on the list, I didn't feel comfortable putting it higher than this.
God damn. Okay. What are we at now? Number 7.
7.
Okay, my number 7, and I struggled with this. My number 7 is Never Hike Alone 2. And it's not a perfect Jason to me, but it's really fucking good, man. The mask is great. Great mask. The outfit's perfect because, it's like a tore up, dirty ass, almost like a wife beater or tank top or whatever. And then the coat around it totally looks like something Jason would be wearing out in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
1,000,000%. It's very worn. But it's not too worn. It's perfect. The special effects, like the cowl and everything else, it looks great. But I do feel there was a couple of spots and also towards the end of the movie, they made sure everything that happened to him was visible on him in these effects. The strikes to the neck and all these things. They made sure to keep that all in there, which I thought was great. I do wish, it might sound weird, but I wish he was wetter.
I get what you mean, though.
Don't be gross.
Well,
it's supposed to be, but he was walking around, and it stuck out really at the ambulance scene. And he's walking up to the ambulance, and the back of his head is dry as shit. And I was like, it makes sense, I guess, because he's not like in the lake all the time when he is disturbed, so like I get it, but I don't know, man. I just never usually he's wet, and maybe that was I didn't even think to ask Vince about that, but. It looked great, and it's just, me being nitpicky and having to rank the appearance and really look at it. But it's a really, really good Jason, and that mask is superb. So I want to get a replica of one of those masks. I do collect Jason masks. I need that one.
All right, my number 7 is what I'm calling Jason X Regular.
Okay.
A lot of what Kat said, it holds true for me too. I don't dislike the look of this Jason. I'm not in love with it, and it's not the memorable Jason that comes away from this movie, and that does hurt it. When I guess it maybe it shouldn't, but it's just I'd put it like basically right at the middle of the list because I don't think there's anything really wrong with it, but it doesn't stand out in any way.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. And the hair. Just saying.
Funny enough, that hair doesn't bother me. I don't know why. The remake hair, I hate. That one doesn't bother me.
It's not as bad, I'll admit, but maybe it's the remake hair that makes me hate it even more. I just see hair on Jason. I'm like, God, fuck, no, why?
Could be.
Maybe.
My number 7 is Never Hike Alone. Also, I got there in a different way than Mikey did. My issue with this, and this was looking for reference from the stills, I don't love the way that the mask looked in the stills.
Really?
Yeah, it feels very like detached from the look. I don't know how to describe it other than that. Like it was kind of a weird feeling. It's not a movie, it's not an issue that I have when I watch the movie, but this is maybe my favorite Jason outfit ever. Like they did a really good job, like you said, weathering those clothes, Mm-hmm. It had a very realistic vibe. And I think they did a great job.
Yeah, no, agreed. Number 6, part 8, you sons of bitches. All right, that mask is great. Okay, Rob? I don't understand. I don't get it. Is it round? Sure. But you know what else is a round mask? Part 6 is also a very round mask. Maybe not as round, but still round.
And none of them are as round as Freddy versus Jason.
I don't know if I believe you. I feel like 8.
This is it's just a circle.
It's right out of your mind. I as much as I stand up for Jason Takes Manhattan, I'll even admit it's much rounder than that one. You're crazy. Anyway, we'll talk more about Freddy versus Jason eventually. But I don't know, man. It's a very clean look. He's got that like just suit on, that wetsuit, whatever the fuck he's got on, and it just looks cool. I like the mask. A lot of people like the mask. Also, the back of the head effects. This part 8 has one of the best ones in my opinion. You know, it's very zombified and he's super wet, which apparently I like. It just looked great. You know, granted, it's a movie where he's in the fucking water a lot, so it makes a lot more sense, but it just looks great, man. And, you know, they played with it too, where they had, you know, he scared the shit out of the kids then in the middle of the city or whatever. And I just like that they played with it. Like his appearance, like at that point in the franchise, everybody was there for Jason and nothing else. Not characters, not story, not nothing. They were there for Jason. And, you know, they knew that. So I liked it. I thought it was good.
You're wrong. Okay.
Son of a bitch.
My number 6 is the final chapter. You guys mentioned before that it's very similar to part 3, and it is very similar to part 3. At this point, they were trying to keep the continuity, and it was supposed to be, you know, the next day, I believe, from part 3, or even maybe even later that day. I don't remember. But what I like about it, and the reason I put it over 3 is that it in 3, I think one of the things that bothers me is the clothes are so damn clean because they're new clothes that he just got. Mm-hmm. In part 4, I like that not only do you have the notch on the mask from the axe in part 3, which I think was a nice touch, but also the clothes aren't as clean now. They're kind of grimy, kind of dirty and everything. It just looks more like Jason to me. So that is my number 6.
My number 6, I'm interested. I think it's really interesting that I'm the one that has put this lowest, because when I was ranking, I wasn't sure if this was going to be too high. I wasn't sure if this was going to be a hot take because I had it too high. And here we are. Here I am ranking it lowest. I have Sackhead Jason. I've got part 2 here.
Okay.
And honestly,
and number 6. Yeah. Okay.
Honestly, I really like Sackhead Jason. He's not the Jason that I think of immediately. And pretty much from here, every Jason that I have higher than him is a Jason I literally thought of first when I was making my list. I have no problem with him though. Like I will kind of stick up for Sackhead Jason. So I think it was a good design. I think it made a lot of sense for where he was. And obviously this is the first time we're seeing Jason, so it seems kind of dumb to say this, but it's a new look for Jason, you know, like it's introducing us to that character. I think it makes sense for what's going on for him. And I like it. No complaints. I just was running out of spaces. So
when you start to get to the top of a list like this, that's what happens, right? You got to choose where you're going to put, you got to put them in some order.
Yeah. And that's very much how the middle of my list felt.
Yeah. And it's such a different look, much like Jason X. So it was a little difficult. My number 5, though, I'll keep the conversation going, is part 2.
Okay.
Maybe it's because it wasn't done to death that it stands out so much. And it's kind of cool that it's there. We've only seen Sackhead in the remake. I thought it was great, man. A lot of people say that it ripped off of The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and it probably did.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, they weren't shy about ripping other movies off for the series.
They sure were not. But it worked for a character like Jason, man. The sack is kind of cool, and I wish there was a way to bring it back. But, you know, like we talk about a million times, no movie, especially now, just coming back, is going to have the balls to not have the hockey mask in the movie. And then it's how much do you rush through and keep it? Like, you know, in the remake had that, but like how long does he keep the sack throughout the movie? And, you know, it's a hard question to answer, but I do wish we could get it again somehow. And number 5, I feel like that's a good spot for it, man. Sackhead's really important to this whole character, obviously.
What about you guys? My number 5 is Uber Jason.
God damn.
I don't love the look of Uber Jason, but I like that they did something different. I mean, it's the 10th movie in the franchise, and they were willing to, I mean, 1, take Jason to space, but 2, also make him Uber Jason. And it's cool. I mean, I remember getting super excited when I saw it in the movie. I think it's a good look. Like it is hard to compare to all the other ones because it's so different. That's also one of the things that I like about it. It stands out in the franchise. It's something that you're definitely going to remember. So it's Uber Jason.
Rob, you and I are on the same page with this one. I also have Uber Jason here. For very similar reasons. I think it stands out. I think it's very reflective of what they were doing in this franchise. And I didn't think about this until I was doing this list. But one thing that matters more to me than just about any other element of a Jason design is, does the Jason match what is happening to Jason in that film? Like, and the answer for this one definitively is yes. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a cool look and everything.
All right. My go?
Yeah.
Yep.
Number
4.
Where are we at? Okay, number 4. Part 6. And I'm going to be honest, this was very close to being my number 3. I flipped them as we were talking because I wasn't sure, but this was my heart. Like, I was flip-flopping these all day. Like, I would think about it and then I'd be like, fuck, let me change it. And the more I think about it, man, the more I think it's right. Part 6, I think, is really good. They had a bunch of iconic scenes and even carried over into the game too, where Gunn did a great job of capturing these characters and every little detail on them. But the cobwebs in the eyes were prominent in the film and the game. Like, they just went into a lot of little detail on Jason himself, which I loved. The mask was great. Little circular, Rob, but it was still really good. I just feel like the outfit was a little strange. He's wearing like this long sleeve green shirt, and like he looks like I don't quite know what the outfit is that he's got on. It's very strange. He's got these yellow work gloves, and like it just looks a little bit thrown together. Like it's not the worst thing in the world. Like a collared green long sleeve shirt. Like it. He has the little pouch thing on the belt. He looks like a camper, which, you know, like, or a hiker or something, which I guess maybe makes sense for him being in the woods, but I still don't want to see it on my Jason Voorhees, you know? So yeah, that's where it goes. But the small details they did put into him and the mask being really good, it won me over. So that's its spot. I think it's fair.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
My number 4 is the Jason from Never Hike Alone.
Wow.
Okay. I think that this is a superb looking Jason. I think that the mask looks really great. I think that the like, I don't know, the outfit, the clothes, whatever.
Yeah.
I think they did a perfect job with everything. There's
the fit,
nothing,
Rob, you want to call it the fit.
Yeah. There's nothing that stands out that doesn't look like Jason Voorhees to me. So yeah, I think they did an excellent job with the creating the look of Jason in all those movies because it looks pretty much the same throughout all 3 movies. And you know, just clicking through, looking at some of these stills again, I mean, this looks like Jason, you know, in a Friday the 13th movie. You know what I mean? Like it just if they took this look and plunked it into some of these other movies where, you know, he's got a lot shittier look.
Yeah.
You know, it would have improved those films, I think.
I didn't talk about this too much on mine because I knew that it hadn't come up yet, but I just kind of want to throw this out there. I feel like Never Hike Alone was at a little bit of a disadvantage for me because I do really love those new inventive Jason looks. Like those catch my interest. They stick out. They're very memorable. I think in a fan film, though, what you want is not to do something new and crazy. Like you want to capture the look of a Friday the 13th film, you know?
Yeah.
And I do think they did that really well. But while we were talking to Vince about other movie ideas, and he described the goo monster Jason, like I'm dying to see that. I have a feeling that would have been like very high on my list of Jasons if I could have seen it.
Yeah, man, they did something special. The back of the head being dry, as dumb as it sounds, and he was the smallest Jason as well. As much as I didn't ding it as bad.
That he was a little on the small side for Jason, but I mean, I don't know that he's that much smaller than Kane. You know?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I didn't ding, like I mentioned it for Jason X, like regular Jason.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that's fucking Kane Hodder, dude. You know, like he's a big dude. He's a muscular guy. So it made up, you know, they made it work. You know, like it was their Jason's and it stood the same throughout. So that's his look. I'm not tremendously mad about it. It's just when you're looking at appearance, you have to look at the appearance, you know? So those are the only 2 dings I got for it. Good place, Rob.
Yeah.
I almost put that high, a little higher too. It was really hard for me. Like this is a hard list to come up with, honestly.
But yeah, at some point you are just kind of running out of slots.
Yeah.
My number 4, this one hurt. This was where like the bias came in so strong. While I was making this list, like when I sat down to do it, my original thought for number 1 was part 6. Because it's the Jason that I think of. And when I sat down and I looked at them all side by side, I realized that it was the scenes of Jason that I was thinking of. Like, this is the plot I think of. This is the movie I like. It's the phase of the storytelling that I like. It's my favorite of the Tommy trilogy. You know, it is the Friday the 13th I think of, but it's not because it has the best Jason design. And that was hard for me to admit. It was hard for me to put it at 4, but that is how I feel. And Mikey covered a lot of like the detailed specifics of why.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they did a great job with the mask. There are a lot of little details. I didn't love the outfit as much. And I don't know that it had, there are a couple design aspects that I really like about 6 that I feel like other movies maybe did a little bit better. So
that's fair. That's fair. That outfit holds it back though, dude. I don't know what they were thinking doing
it back.
Yeah.
Oh, and I don't think I had ever noticed until I was looking at all of them next to each other today, where it's like, who dressed him this way?
Right. Where did he find this shit even? All right. My number 3, top 3 here is part 3. I don't know what the fuck you guys are thinking. I mean, we went over it too when we did our first Murder by Numbers, well, our only Murder by Numbers, until June. I really like this outfit. It seems like some shit that it was just a regular, like one of those t-shirts with the fucking pocket and the beige pants and some boots. And he's putting the fucking boots to the ground and stabbing the shit out of some motherfuckers. And I was cool with it, man. The mask was great. Like you guys said, it is the mask. It was pinned to the head a little bit more, you know, like it was more like on there. The other ones kind of have that loose band around the ends and it kind of hangs off, which I like too. But there was something about the way this look was constructed and the effects for the head and all those special effects were great. You know, like it looked bumpy and weird and it was, I think it was a great look for Jason. So part 3, and it's the first real, like we had Sackhead and whatever, but this is like Jason as we know him. This is it. And although I like Zombie Jason better, they did a great job. When you have to sit down, and I know this shouldn't go into it, the decision much, but when you sit down and you say, all right, this is who we're basing our franchise around. We got to create, you know, the guy that's causing all this chaos and unstoppable force. What does he look like? And, you know, they made a pretty good mold. So part 3, top 3, number 3, right there. Correct answer.
All right.
You guys should be ashamed of yourselves.
I'm not, though.
My number 3 is Jason Lives.
Okay.
I like the mask. It is slightly round, but not as round as Freddy versus Jason, and not as big as Jason Takes Manhattan.
Pretty round.
It's not that round, Mikey. It's more of an oval shape.
Pretty round. And
it also, I think, I don't know. I think it looks good. I like the zombie Jason. I like the look that they went with for that. He is fresh out of the ground. So I think they did a good job with that. The only thing that kept this from being number 2 for me is that stupid fucking belt.
Yeah.
I don't even mind the rest of the outfit, honestly. Like, it's fine. It's whatever. But that fucking, they put a utility belt on. He's walking around like he's fucking Batman or something. What the fuck? Like, I hate that thing. So it's that is the only thing that really holds it back. It's number 3 for me because of that. The best movie of the franchise, though.
Yeah, if we're just doing movies, you know.
Yeah.
Here's my hot take. Here it is. We found it.
Oh boy. God damn it, Cat. Is it what I think it is? Son of a bitch.
My number 3 is Jason Takes Manhattan.
Whoa, not what I thought. Whoa.
I didn't realize until Mikey put it low, like how hot of a take this is going to be. I said it in the Jason Takes Manhattan episode. I said it in Murder by Numbers. I said it when I made Mr. Cat's boyfriend watch all the Friday the 13th. The one thing that I unequivocally love about Jason Takes Manhattan is I fucking love waterlogged weird ass Jason. I love that he doesn't bleed. He just kind of leaks seawater at people. I'm obsessed with the seaweed look. This works for me in a way the rest of the movie did not. But while we're just talking about Jason designs, I get it. You know, he's not just like a zombie. He's like a weird lake revenant. And I wish we got to see more of that.
Even though that mask is so big?
Even though the mask is really big. And honestly, the mask being big is the one thing, because I didn't notice it today until I was looking at the stills. That is what kept it from being my number 2 Jason spot.
All right.
Okay.
There are people who do love that version of that look of Jason.
It just works for me. Yeah. It really does.
I don't get it, but I know there are a lot of people who really love that version of Jason.
Son of a bitch. Yeah, far be it from me to go against, Jason Takes Manhattan. That's high though. God damn.
I know it's really, okay. And again, it physically pained me to put it above 6 and something. But that's how I felt. So.
God damn. Okay. Number 2, and it was almost number 1. I feel like we're all gonna have the same number 1. I don't know.
I feel like we might.
We might. But number 2 is Freddy vs. Jason. It's such a good look. It's
that fucking round ass mask.
It's not that round.
It is super round. It's like a circle.
It is not that round. You're lucky this cord doesn't reach over to my mask. It's not that round. I love this mask. It's perfectly weathered. It's great. It's fucking perfect. And there's even some iterations of it. Like they got a lot of good shots of where Freddy had scratched him across the face. That was a really good shot of it. The outfit was really good too. I feel like the outfit, hang on, let me pull it up. Freddy versus Jason. So I can look at it as I'm talking. Because I really didn't have to look at this one much. I've always thought this was my favorite Jason, or arguably. It looks a lot like the Never Hike Alone too. Like it looks like a lot like that Jason. A t-shirt with, that open like jacket kind of thing, but light, very weathered, pants and boots, go to work. And I liked it, man. The only thing that stops this from being number 1 is it has fucking hair. And I don't know why it has to have hair. Stop putting hair on Jason, please. Also, he has a tiny fucking head. Real small. Like he's got a little bean head, and I don't understand why. But the mask covers. Maybe that's your thing, Rob. Maybe like his head is so small it makes the mask look bigger. I don't know where that comes from, man.
Maybe that's what it is, man. I don't know. It's a round mask. It just looks weird, and it's always looked weird to me. Even before, like when we did the Freddy versus Jason episode, and I was sitting there watching the movie, I was like, "Why does that mask have to be so round?"
I like it.
It's always stuck out as a bad mask to me.
Son of a bitch. Yeah, that's my number 2. I love that Jason.
All right. My number 2, and I thought you guys would have this one higher as well, is Sackhead Jason.
Wow, 2.
Yeah, I think the sack, it's not just the sack. Like it looks cool that he has the sack on, right? Like the sack is a cool look and it's something different that, it wasn't different at the time. That was just Jason. But as we look back now, it's not the first thing that leaps to mind when you think of Jason Voorhees, but it's a cool look for him wearing the sack, and it's got the one eye hole cut out and everything, but just the whole outfit too. Like he's dressed like a hillbilly. I love it. He's got like overalls on and a flannel shirt or whatever. Like just the whole look, I think really works. And it screams Jason Voorhees living in the woods by himself to me.
All right. Real quick. This doesn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about or anything, but I feel like Rob shouldn't be allowed to say eye hole anymore. And if he does again, it should be bleeped.
What's wrong with saying eye hole?
You said it.
Yeah. But do you concur?
I get it. Yeah.
So I can say asshole, but I can't say
Correct.
All right.
So now you know. We'll move forward. I think we'll let those go, but you can't say it again. Also, I found my cord did reach. I don't understand, dude. It's not that round.
Did you look at the pictures? Look at the pictures from the movie. It's fucking round.
I don't need to look at the pictures. I got the fucking thing right here.
You got one that somebody made based on the movie. You got a bad mask, dude. If it's not round, it's a bad mask because that motherfucker is round.
I mean, it's kind of sort of round, but it's not too round.
It's too round.
Bitch.
I'll keep that conversation going because my number 2 is Freddy versus Jason.
Thank you, Kat.
You're wrong too, Kat. It's too round.
Here's the thing is that when I was watching it, like the first time ever, I felt like, yes, this is Jason Voorhees. They did a good job. When I was analyzing them for Murder by Numbers, I was like, that mask is rounder. I do think that it's noticeably more round than other Jason masks. That being said, hockey masks are fucking round. Like,
right.
I've tried more than once, because in my head sometimes it's like, it wouldn't be that hard to just like make a Jason mask. If I had a mask, I could beat it up myself. It'd be kind of a cool like prop to have. They look so fucking round when you try to buy them. I think it might be the most accurate to the shape of a hockey mask.
It's not though. I
think
watch hockey all the time. Ain't nobody wearing a round mask.
Everyone's wearing a mask this round.
No, they're not. I promise you they're not. That's not what hockey masks look like. It's too fucking round.
Take a second to look at the group. It's not that round.
You got me over here looking at the group.
I mean, look. I have the NES one next to it from, what was that? Part 3?
There's the Obi-Wan cannoli.
Shut the hell up. God damn it.
But that's your mask. Look at the picture of the still from the movie.
Dude.
It's fucking round.
It's identical. I mean, it is kind of round. I'll give you that. I never noticed how round this was. But it's not, I don't know. I feel like it goes to the jaw perfectly. It's not round all the way around. It's kind of round at the edges.
Yeah, it's too round.
You're crazy. I can't believe you.
And I think they did a really good job. Again, I think this was a task that was really difficult because going into something like Freddy versus Jason, like Freddy had a look at that point in the franchise where it was pretty easy to be like, this is what we want Freddy to look like. But we had all these iterations of Jason before. And I think they did a really good job just kind of making an amalgamation of them and saying, this is our Jason Voorhees that we're taking into this fight. They did a great job. And he's aesthetically very often the Jason that I think of when I think of Jason Voorhees.
All right. Well, you're wrong.
But I do think it's interesting that because this was my number 2, we do all, in fact, have the same number 1 pick.
I lost track.
No question. There's no question what the best one is.
No.
Part 7.
Yeah, it's absolutely the New Blood.
Yeah.
The only thing good about that movie.
It is.
Yes.
And it physically, this was another one of those ones because, like, even though I think of the scenes from part 6, I'm thinking of the Jason from part 7. Like, this is the epitome zombie Jason design. It's so badass.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. It looks awesome. When you see like his back and stuff, just everything looks great.
Yeah.
On this Jason. Yeah.
I hate that they only used this design in 7.
Right. Yeah. The most boring Friday the 13th. So that's the biggest crime of that movie. How the hell do you make a Friday the 13th movie that's boring?
I don't know.
Well, they managed to somehow, but it's but without a doubt the best design. I mean, it looks fantastic.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, the amount of detail that went into it, you could see like his bones and shit, like it looks absolutely great. The mask, although the mask is cool, the mask is very white, which I'm not mad at, but there's like a chunk of it missing as well, which, it worked with the design, the effects of like Jason, like without, the mask and the head and everything else. Phenomenal. They did the chains and everything. Like they created the swamp zombie Jason that we've kind of always wanted.
Yeah.
And they put it in one of the worst fucking movies in the franchise. Like, it was so bad.
Yeah. The coolest thing about the chunk that's missing is you also see the chunk of jaw that's missing from Jason. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Great fucking design.
I had a feeling that was how it was going to end up.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because it's just, to me, it's just undeniable.
I really didn't know, because it was one of those things where it's like, looking at all of them side by side, it was really easy to say, yeah, 7 is the best. But before I had my references up, I was not thinking of 7 that high. Like, I was thinking of it highly, like top tier, but I wasn't thinking of it as like number 1 until I started comparing them. So I wasn't sure that. I'm glad we all got here, though.
Yeah.
We're all coming together.
Yeah, we don't even need a cattle prod today.
No.
Mr. Cat's boyfriend guy does. Yeah, and it truly is a fucking shame that they didn't use that design again for 8. Like, what the hell were they? They would have been perfect for like a water.
They're like, we got this giant mask we want to put on him.
You son of a bitch.
Aww.
All right, so fair enough. That's a pretty good list. I feel like we had a lot of similarities. There were some discrepancies in there, but for the most part, one of us or another were close in a lot of different areas. So, and you were just wrong about Freddy vs. Jason. Me and Kat both had it at 2. That's a consensus.
Fucking round ass bullshit. It's distracting when you watch the movie. Like, why is it so round?
I don't think it distracted me ever when I was watching the movie.
Oh, it drove me nuts.
It's the best mask in the franchise. I stand by that.
Nope.
Well, that's a little bit silly.
I stand by it. But
okay.
Nonetheless,
Well,
one day we'll do a mask ranking. Fuck it. Maybe that'll be like a Patreon thing. Who knows?
No, we will not.
All right, fair enough. Wow, sandbagging son of a bitch. All right. Patreon.com/Slasher Radio. Tiers starting as low as $3 a month. There's a 1-week free trial you can check out. You get an extra show every week. You get before, during, and after scenes of the show. Oh, okay. Hold on, real quick. Before, during, and after. This is going to be cut out of the regular show, but it is going to go up on Patreon because I forgot to do it during the voicemail. And I don't want to pull the curtain back too far on the regular show.
Why not? We always do.
Yeah, no, but this one's like
thing.
Really, I don't know. It's just pulling the curtain back too far. All right, we're done fucking with these. All right, at Slasher Radio on Twitter. You can give us a follow there. Also, YouTube. We're at Slasher Radio on YouTube. There will be a video version of the show. There'll be like visual aids and chopped up into little sections. So, it's just a good alternative to enjoy and experience the show. So be sure to give us a sub on there. And
when you're putting together those visual aids, if you just want to throw my face in there every once in a while, that'll really keep the people.
Yeah, it'll be like a jump scare.
Act like I won't. Go ahead and act like I won't. I put Tom Atkins' ass in one of them, so why not? Yeah, that's really it, guys. So support the show. You can check me out at Mikey's Dead. You can also check out the show that we are now ticking. So it is coming soon that I still do with Little Miss Huge Clown Penis.
Huge Clown Penis.
It is called Cult FM. It is a horror movie and gaming podcast that you can blame Allie for not being Allie. But like I said, now we have the patrons that are breathing down our neck. I feel like I'm going to be talking about this goddamn movie twice. So we do need to hurry up and get it on out of there. Because it's not even like it's a good movie like Friday the 13th. Oh, all right. I'll talk about it twice, whatever. The Ring. What more am I going to say? I'll just cut all that episode and stay quiet and leave it and throw it in the episode in this one. And yeah, that's it for me. Rob, what about you?
I'm on Twitter at Radio Rob123, and you can listen to the other show that I do with Kat, the Nick fucking Woo Cagecast, Nick effing Woo Cagecast in your podcast players. And we should have just released our episode on National Treasure.
Big one.
It is.
Yeah, this is a big movie. Also, Will is banned too, right?
Yes, the list is now Mikey is banned, Ali is banned, Damien Maffei is banned, and Will the Thrill is banned.
Yeah.
Thrill me.
I don't think I missed anybody, but we've been banning a lot of people. So.
We've had to, unfortunately.
See if we get Peppa Pig banned from the Nick F. and Woo Cagecast. Kat, what about you?
I do think the power move for the patrons would not just be to vote through the ring. It would be if they can manage to get the ring through on a week that Rob is gone and Allie replaces me on this show. The ultimate goal is just to get Mikey and Allie to talk about the ring twice.
I don't want to do that, though.
I think that's great. I think you guys have just the exact same conversation, but you have to plug all of the Slasher Radio things. No, you can find me on Twitter at cat_velour, VOLEUR. You can check out my website, catvelour.com.
Okay. Also, we are actually announcing something early, which is a change. Next week, we will have Nathan Basil, Leslie Vernon himself from Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon will be joining the show. That will also be up on YouTube. So make sure you get that sub in now and make sure you're obviously subscribed to this feed as well, you little fuckers, so you don't miss anything. Good night from Slasher Radio.
All the best of Slasher Radio podcast.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.